Assuming I hit the right button. Hey folks, Casual Dad here, finally sitting down to go ahead and walk through the meta from Worlds, Adepticon Worlds Championship 2025. And I'm really excited to dive into this. I've been thinking about it off and on for weeks, finally sitting down to do it. And here to keep me in line and make sure I don't get too sassy about something is Mad King. How's it going, buddy?
Yeah, going pretty good. Thank you for asking. How are you?
Hmm. Not bad. And if I recall correctly, with this 2025 Worlds, we're going to be talking about triple arc spam, right? So the whole top cut is all triple arcs.
Oh. Oh, I was in a fugue state when I sent that message.
That's what I get for messing with you at some odd hour. I'm sure it was the middle of the night, and for some reason you were replying to me. But yeah, that was funny. I cracked up pretty hard at
Yeah, it
that.
was
And I was,
3 a.m.
oh God, what are you doing responding to my messages at 3 a.m.?
Insomnia.
Hmm, fair. Okay, well, I'll try to stop messing with you then. It was the middle of the day here, and I was out walking my son, and we were swapping memes about Warhammer because of he's in his little pink beep beep car and had a sword out. He was swinging at everything that went by, definitely telling me to drive closer so he could hit it with his sword. And if I recall correctly, you said that after that, I have to make sure that I raise him not to be an Eldari player like me or a Tau player, but I have to raise him to probably be an Orc player, and I have to make sure he knows about the myth of the purple Orc that's going to be watching over him.
Correct.
I think I got my notes. Good. Okay, cool. And for this, I sent you actual notes prior to the actual video, but I messed them up already. Said we were going to cover the top 10. We're actually going to cover the top 16.
Mm-hmm.
Got just going to look at the lists, talk about what's in them, talk about what makes these good, and then we're going to transition into some stats about kind of the total of the day two, the like uppercut rounds, and then we're going to jump into the X-Wing Alliance and how that kind of shapes the future of the game.
Yeah.
So instead of diving into like the raw stuff about Worlds as much as Gold Squadron did just earlier this week, and they did a really phenomenal job. If you want more World stuff, every single person on Gold Squadron who played, they actually went through all of their individual rounds, talked their opponents, talked their matchups, and it's a really good podcast. I do recommend that, and I wanted to do something a little bit different than what they did, so we're not reinventing the wheel here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're going to start at the bottom here, and this is the 16th place. And for folks who actually want to do this, for folks who want to pull this up, I'll have a link to what we're doing in List Fortress in the description of the video, and you just want to click the cut. If you click that top header that says cut, it'll filter it by your top 16. Otherwise, it's going to show the top players of the entire top 53 of day 2 of Adepticon. So I had to remember to do that. And the spreadsheet on the website doesn't show you that you're filtering by cut, but it does show you that 1 through 16 instead of showing you just the whole list. So starting out here at the bottom, I'll go ahead and jump in first. We've
Mine
got
gets
Sheev.
sorted in a different order than yours, but it still works.
And that's yeah. So anybody
Yeah.
who's eliminated sits the same. So you have two fourth place players Yes, two fourth place players because they're both eliminated and technically have like the same rating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can go ahead and peek. Folks have seen this now. So like this, you've got 1 and 2 clearly are differentiated,
Yeah.
but there's 2 4s, and then everybody else in the top 8 who didn't make the top 4 just shows 8.
Mm-hmm.
Likewise for top 16. So when you do that filter by cut, the order they wind up in is a little bit random. So we're going to be kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
Hopefully that works out okay. Also, coincidentally, we were pouring one out for Scum because doing that random sorting, all 4 of these Scum players in day 2, which kudos for the Scum players making day 2. That's awesome. But they all end up kind of in a stack like this.
Yeah.
And we do have, look at that, we have some actual Republic spam right here. Wow, okay.
Oh no, not again.
We'll get to that.
Oh, okay. It hurts.
Well, jumping into Eel Mail, who has the same username on Discord, just out him a little bit. Very frequent contributor to the Discord, the Gold Squadron podcast Discord, so you can definitely find him. Brought the Wedge Antilles standard loadout from Battle Over Endor. Luke, looks like custom Luke. Gina, is that custom Gina? It's custom
Yeah,
Gina.
custom Gina.
Proton Cannon custom Gina, wild. And then we got Ahsoka A-Wing, and then Sabine Tai. I'm going to go ahead and gloss over these a little bit as we go through, because there's a lot to cover and a lot we want to make sure to talk about. So do you want to go ahead and take Louis' list so we can look at that?
Yep. So, Louis, we've got another rebel. You'll be hearing a lot about that. We got Keo in the A-Wing. Luke Skywalker, I'm going to assume it's always going to be Battle Over Yavin, Luke Skywalker.
Oh, fair. Yeah.
I don't think he has any other really takeable standard loadout when you're pairing it with Battle Over End or Wedge, which again you're going to see that pairing come up quite a lot in Rebel lists, and then Han Solo with that's custom Han, Hopeful, Baze, Chopper, Bistan, Millennium Falcon, which is just Bistan double tapping.
The double tapping Han actually made it back, and there was a points adjustment. I want to say, I think that was XWA though, so I don't want to muddy the waters with that.
Yeah.
But shout out to Louis for bringing Han back. I didn't notice that in the first pass. Yeah, then we're just going to keep on cruising here. We did in our Mad King and I actually had before this we did kind of a meta breakdown of what we thought was going to hit, and Mad King nailed what was going to happen. Absolutely called what we were going to see. My long shot bet was going to be that resistance figured highly in the top cuts, and I fell a little bit short. There's a lot of resistance up here, but they all, I believe, fell out in the top 16. I don't think any resistance made top 8, but we'll check that in a second. We got 4 in a row here. We've got Sheev with Ray Falcon, which that ship terrifies me. The classic build that has just insane amounts of damage potential if it's out of the front arc. We got Elo in the T-70. We got BB-8 with Chewbacca crew. Got Merle Cobbin A-Wing and Lulu Lompar A-Wing as well. Merle with Baffle, love to see Baffle, and Lulo with her. Well, they both have heroic, and then Lulo has shield upgrade. So 2 A-Wings, a pod, a T-70, and a Falcon. So it's a Falcon 5 ship, which is a gnarly customer. I'm actually fairly surprised we didn't see that place higher, because that is an archetype that's been around Resistance for a while. It hasn't gotten fundamentally worse, and I feel like it plays well into a lot of the lists out there, but may not do as well on objectives, because it is a little bit action hungry. Yeah, then we got Wraithos, if you wanted to take that one.
Wraith, Poe Dameron, that will be custom Poe, so not Commander Poe, that'll be his original printing Poe.
Flyboy.
Yeah, Flyboy Poe, thank you. Ray, once again, just Ray being Ray. A bit different to how Sheev built Ray.
Overtuned.
Yeah, overtuned an electronic baffle instead of engine upgrade and novice tech. But again, just that Rose Tico Finn combo with heroic on Ray. We've got Jarek Yeager in the Fireball. Oh, I can't remember what the actual chassis is called, but I just always always called it a Fireball.
I want to say the chassis is called the Fireball. I'll look that up while you're going through the list.
Concussion missiles, overtune modulators, targeting computer. So, Jarek Yeager is always popular in that thing, just because of his ability is pretty gnarly if you're not watching out for it. Can throw a lot of dice if you're not careful. And then Zaro in the Y-Wing. So dorsal turret, M9G8, and wartime loadout. You'll hear a lot of complaints about, well, not complaints, but comments about wartime loadout in XWA points when we discuss it, because it is quite prevalent in the new XWA meta, but wasn't overly that popular in AMG just because I think it went up in points, and so did all of the Resistance Y-Wings that could take it.
Yeah, and that's been going back and forth a lot, where AMG also went back and forth on that wartime loadout, whether it was affordable or not, and they cranked it way up and then dialed it back. And
yeah, but this is going back a year and a half ago, which I'm not fond, but not capable of recalling that well.
I should remember that better, because that's when I actually went to Worlds. Is the Fireball? Man, what is that ship? I cannot find it. Surely it's not just called the Fireball. It might be. Every reference I see just calls it Fireball. Oh, there it is. The actual box calls it the Fireball. Yep, so it is the Fireball. It's named after the title. That is some typical lazy sequel writing, guys. Because I guess it is a custom ship, but they just don't even talk about what chassis it is. Right, then we got Ninja Elf starting with the BB-8 pod with automated targeting priority and Ferrosphere paint. Oh, nasty. Temin in the T-70 with heroic Ferrosphere R6D8 integrated foils. Elo Asti T-70 marksmanship Ferrosphere integrated S foils. Jarek Yeager heroic marksmanship M9G8 targeting computer and Kaz's Fireball. And then Poe. That also appears to be Poe Falcon. Yikes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Trick Shot, Lone Wolf, Chewbacca, Rey, Engine Upgrade, and Rey's Title. So we've got another Falcon 5 ship list, and that's got 2 X.
Ooh. We have a lost connection here with Casual Dad Games.
Crates, you'd either not shoot the Ferrosphere ship or... Sorry?
Oh, lost connection with you there for a second.
Oh, nuts. I'm sorry.
No, all good.
Yeah, the AC went on. That probably did a hiccup, so sorry about that. Yeah, I was just saying that Ferrosphere paint is probably really good against, in the objective scenarios, where you have to use, or in the action scenarios, where you have to use an action to perform the objective action. Ferrosphere paint spam would be really strong in that, and might struggle in some of the other arenas. Because it's expensive. I want to say they bumped the cost on that a lot in AMG and XWA.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of resistance. It's kind of similar. You see some of the same pieces or pieces swapped out that do the same job. So you got your X-Wing equivalents are very common. See a lot of Falcons, which the Resistance Falcons I expected to do fairly well. They didn't do that well. But yeah, they've got a lot of really, really strong pieces that just make them sturdy and consistent and have some dirty, dirty tricks on maneuvering and in terms of how they can impact other factions. So the Ferrosphere in particular stands out, but also that heroic. I don't see much A-Wing spam, which I expected to see a little bit more of. But I think that's more of an X-Wing Alliance thing because they've definitely dialed back the points on those a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
You want to go ahead and jump on Nathan's, and we are getting to the end of the top 16.
Nathan, there we go. Just scroll up
Nathan
a
ID.
little. Yep, so more resistance. That's going to be Chewie in the Falcon, Elo in the X-Wing, Jessica in the X-Wing, Yarrick once again in that Fireball. Just really good chassis with a really good pilot and ability. And Shazazoro again with that Y-Wing. Bit of a different Y-Wing loadout this time with the ion cannon turret.
Yep. And I remember playing against Shaza. We might have lost connection again. I remember playing against Shaza in when I played Worlds, and Shaza's a really strong objective piece. Especially very good on crates. Just a really good kind of default piece to pick up a crate, do an objective action, and still perform fine. With that hour 4 of wartime and ion cannon turret, you have a lot of options for how to perform without demanding too many actions. I don't honestly remember Shaz's pilot ability because it didn't matter. It's just like having a cheap Y-Wing with a turret on it that you can use to do objectives and kind of gum up the board is a powerful piece.
Sometimes that's all you need.
Yeah, so a lot of X-Wings, a lot of Falcons, and a good chunk of... We're seeing mostly Y-Wings and then a handful of pods. It's probably about even, actually, if I did the numbers on that. But then next up, we're going to jump to our first different... Well, our next faction, because we've done 2 already, and we're looking at the two Separatist players that both made it into the top 16, and both were knocked out before the top 8. But still, just to give a quick preview ahead, Daniel Lim, I'm fairly certain, did win a world championship some time ago. He won with Droid Spam fairly early when Separatists were released, so it's not a surprise to see him still running those. Doug Howe, I personally associate with Republic, with Jedi, although I may be mixing him up, but I'm fairly certain that I had a Doug Howe Republic list saved with a bunch of aces, but I hear he really loves Sun Fac, so it's no surprise we see Sun Fac in his list. Get Sun Fac with elusive, ensnare, and targeting computer, that being the I6, what's it called? The droid fighter, not the droid fighter, the bug fighter.
Yeah, the Nantex.
Yeah, the Nantex, and with elusive and snare, can reroll the defense dice for every single once per red maneuver it does. And then with ensnare allows it to, when it does it takes a tractor token to rotate its turret arc, and when it does that with ensnare, it can then pass that tractor onto an opposing ship at close range.
Yeah.
in that turret arc.
And because it's
So
been assigned a tractor, it can still barrel roll or boost itself as well.
right, so it can do that, and it can barrel roll twice, or yeah, it doesn't have the boost action, but can use that to boost if I recall. So we see Sunfac with Afterburners quite a bit to give him the boost, but super strong piece with I6, incredibly fragile. So you don't see him very much because he's expensive and really fragile, but when he works, just have an I6 dancing around just tractoring stuff to keep it from getting him in arc. Has seen a lot less play since the tractor nerfs, so that the option for ships to do that rotate if you move them with a tractor really sort of shuts Sunfac down. Which is sad. I think that may have been an overcorrection, but I do understand that that was a really bad play experience when that came out.
It really was.
Yeah, still a really cool ship, really interesting to fly. The interesting to fly part is what I put it on the table a lot and rarely do well, but it's pretty cool. Then we got Dirge and the Rogue with Proton Cannon, Xanadu, Blood, and General Grievous crew. Interesting. Ooh, interesting. Okay. Then we got DFS 081, which is it's a Vulture, and it shell charges independent calculations, grappling struts, iron assembler, and 2 horde shell prototypes with Discord, independent calculations, grappling struts, DGS 047, and one of my favorite pieces of tech in the game, Hondo Crew. We got a Hondo Crew Roomba, which I guarantee was incredibly helpful with Sunfac. Being able to coordinate up to I3 and having a bunch of Vultures you can jam as an alternative, or being able to protect Sunfac by doing the range 3. I said range 3, right? Because I meant range 3. Being able to protect Sunfac with the range 3 jam to an opponent, super, super powerful. Like, it is so good. And just Hondo being able to jam or coordinate up to range 3 is what I think makes him incredibly powerful. I am very sad when we get to talking about XWA, they made him just 1.2 expensive for my favorite builds. So I love putting Hondo on the I5 Tapusk Hawk, and he doesn't fit anymore because I think Tapusk has 7 loadout.
Yep.
So cheer for that. I hope one day to be able to get that build in again, but otherwise I have to find other ways to do Hondo. But I love to see that. You do see, as we get up here into the top 8 and above, you see a lot more use of coordinators. It's still not in all of them, but you do see quite a bit more of it, and that's something to keep an eye out for. It's really potentially very powerful tech for this stuff. And then we can pop to Daniel Lim. I don't know which of these guys actually performed better, but that's how they're showing here.
Yeah. So, Dirge again in the
Rogue.
Rogue, thank you. I'm blanking. Grievous, Xanadu, Blood, and Proton Cannons, just a really common Dirge loadout, even with Scum, with the Proton Cannons. You can't take the title for Scum.
Right.
They stopped that. Because it was a bit nasty on Scum Dirge. Even though I prefer the Seppi Dirge ability.
Yeah.
Then we got Double Tri-Fighter, actually. So DIS T81 and DIS 347, so they're the actual droids, with intercept boosters, one with Predator, one with Crackshot.
That's bold. That is a high-risk list.
Yep. It gets even riskier with the double discs. DGS 047 with the repulsor stabilizers, obviously, with Kraken, then DGS 286 with clusters and Discord missiles. So a lot of Discord missiles being thrown around. DFS 081, grappling struts, independent calcs, and energy shell, and iron assembler with struts, independent calcs, and Discord missiles. So both Seppi lists throwing out a lot of headaches with Discord missiles.
Yeah, and I do think that if you're going to run double Tri-Fighter, you have to have Kraken to let them keep those calculates.
Definitely.
So that, I assume that was the combination and why those are taken together. But also that allows you to set up those Discord missile shots because it lets them do another action but still have the calculate on hand to launch the Discord at an inconvenient time. Yeah. And with the Roomba being able to side slip, that's a really fun carrier for Discord missiles. And then, of course, putting in an iron assembler just kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, Discord missiles is an action.
Correct.
And Iron Assembler is Initiative 1.
Also correct.
Nice. So that makes that a really strong combination because you can move and then launch Discords at Initiative 1 so that you can do it before most other ships have moved. So that's a really strong carrier for your Discord missiles.
Yep.
So it's no surprise to see Iron Assembly are in both with Discord Missile in both lists. All right, and then we see our first Empire, first of a very short number of Empire players. Duncan, who also I associate with Jedi Aces. I might be mixing up Doug and Duncan. I apologize to both for that, but they've been around for a long time. These are like very skilled players, and I always associate Duncan with Jedi Aces. So seeing him as one of the lone Empire players is a bit of a shock.
Yeah.
Not really. I'm sure he's been playing a lot of factions, but we got a 4-ship here, so a pretty big drop. I believe that's the first. No, okay, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen a couple. So it's the third 4-ship list we've seen so far.
Yeah. So we're into
one of the few we're going to see
top 8
beyond
now.
this point. Yeah.
Yeah, top 8 now.
Yeah. Yes. Quite right. So we just covered top 16. Now we're into top 8. Yeah. So we got Vader. That's custom Vader.
Yes, it is.
Vader. Yep. Because I remember Duncan really heavily using a very aggressive Anakin. Ada to no, not Ada Anakin. The X-wing Aether Sprite Anakin. So the extra shield, lower, extra attack die, extra shield, lower evade dice Anakin, and he used him really heavily. And if I recall, he's the guy that really tested out Chopper. So Chopper being an aggressive I6 jam on Anakin, it was one of his signature pieces.
Yeah.
And I really hope it is Duncan who I'm remembering for that. But here he did custom Vader with Brilliant Evasion, Debris Gambit. Okay. Panel Analyzer, Fire Control System, and Afterburners. Arguably pretty greedy Vader with a lot of defensive abilities. We get Soontir Fel with Juke and Predator. Fifth Brother with Fire Control System and Concussion Missiles, and Vizier, the Reaper, with Palpatine. So we got your 2.5 aces plus your support Reaper in a very aggressive 4-ship. This is one of those live or die lists where if you hit bomb spam or if you accidentally land on a Discord missile, you're gonna lose. But these are really strong pieces, and if you fly them well, they obviously can perform extremely well. Making top 8 with that is a really bold move.
Well, he's actually
I would be
first place overall points wise.
So he did really, really well.
Yeah,
then.
he's rank 1 going into the top cuts. Because he's gotten 24 points here, which is the highest point value on this list.
That's one of the things, though, where if you win with that list, you don't lose a ship.
Yeah,
so you're
definitely.
Yes. So if you're winning by a lot. You're not giving up points with that list.
Yeah.
If you lose either of those aces, Vader or Soontir, your game gets dramatically harder. So if you pull that off, then you do get really strong bonus to points. So that's a very aggressive way to stack your deck.
Yeah, I don't know how they worked out their points going in, but I think 24 is close to undefeated.
So he only lost in the top 8.
He only lost in the top 8, I think. Don't quote me, I don't have the actual... We only have what this list fortress is on the final day. Or the final 2 days.
Just to jump in on that. Yeah, we did check List Fortress and Roll Better GG, and all we could find was kind of random selections. So this top 53 players, the final cuts of day 2, is what's listed in List Fortress as day 1. So it's nowhere near the full number of players for the event, so we weren't able to see the full data for everything. But to get the top cuts, it worked.
Yeah.
One thing I do know for sure is that out of day 1, Louis was undefeated. So I believe he won again to get in the top 16 and then lost in the top 16. But so 22 is very close to undefeated as well, up to top 16. So what you're talking about with 24 being extremely high, yes. Yeah, that tracks. Nice. Yeah, and then you got our next Rebel, of which we're going to see quite a bit from here.
Yeah. So we got Brady McCoy with Wedge Antilles Battle Over Endor, Gina and Braylon B-Wings Battle Over Endor, which I'm surprised we didn't see more of them. But with how the weather with how the winds were blowing going into Adepticon, I'm not surprised there wasn't as many. There's definitely more of a meta forming around Rebels with the Luke Wedge Keo core with your choice of other ships. Then we've got Hull in the... I'm going to assume that's the battle over Yavin Hull Y-Wing. and
I
Sabine run in
believe
the
that's
tie.
the Yeah, I believe that's the only version of Hull. I don't
Yeah,
think he comes as a custom pilot.
and then
Yeah,
there you go. Yeah. So
we did right before. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, that's a very shooty McShooty face list. You want to be doing a lot of damage with that list. It puts a lot of damage onto the table as well.
Yeah, and that I'd be curious to see what knocked that out. But I do know that Braylon went up 1 point, so the Gina Braylon combo went up a whole point, which really squeezed out a lot of the builds that were
Yeah.
using it, and especially to go with that and then also do the Battle over Endor Wedge, another very expensive ship. That's a lot of pressure to make your hits count. And if your joust doesn't go off exactly the way you want it to, these ships can struggle a bit, especially in objective games. But
Oh yeah.
even in head-to-head fights with some of the other stuff we're seeing, seeing that, that separatist list does not care how many proton torpedoes you brought.
No.
Yeah, wild. And this, we are going to see more of that, but one thing I do want to make sure that we're going to talk about in a minute here after we finish the list is what is not here that we kind of expected to see. And the double B-Wing, like you say, there were some meta monsters that were nerfed last minute. There were some last minute buffs, and usually when we see that, you see arguably an overreaction, where if something is nerfed
Yeah.
at all, people stop playing it, period. Even
Yeah.
if it's still in a very strong list, clearly here making top 8. Yeah, and I think that happened to the double B-Wings, but then also certainly happened to one other archetype that we've already touched on, but continue with that. Then we go ahead and talk about our luminary, Paul himself, making the top 8 again. Close to making it out, but did not quite. Also in that upper score of the 23 points, we're talking Fen Rao, Fang with Swarm Tactics, Clan Training, and Beskar. I love Fen with Swarm Tactics.
Yeah.
Especially with Clan. I personally like him with Clan and Optics, but of course Clan and Beskar is super good. Beskar and Optics both give to Fang fighters some of the things that they were really needing in terms of action economy. And with a pilot like Fen, who has the loadout in AMG points, who had the loadout to afford Swarm Tactics and at that I6, that I6 coordinate is huge,
Yeah.
especially if you use it before your engagements or when Fen isn't in danger. That's super, super strong. You can do a ton with that. And he paired that with also the I6 Battle over Endor Wedge. Huge advantage having that double I6, being able to choose which one moves and shoots first. So you can set up what you do when, which is kind of a classic Paul thing where he likes to have his power pieces interchangeable so he can respond to the game state with as much flexibility as possible. Then we got Luke. Again, we're assuming that's the Battle of Yavin Luke.
Yeah.
We got Keo, still running Keo despite... Well, I guess Keo's still 3 points in this. Maybe. I don't remember if Keo was nerfed. I don't think so. But
No.
you see so little Keo that I feel like he must have been or something.
She wasn't. It's just more efficient to run different archetypes with rebels at that point.
Sure. But Paul flew Keo all last year. He flew Keo at multiple tournaments, including, I believe, Worlds last year. I believe he also flew Keo then. So no surprise to stick to that as a strong piece. And then, of course, Sabine Tai.
It is Vector Cannon's Keo, though.
Yes, that's a fair point, which is a cheeky one.
Yeah.
So you're kind of relying on evading every turn and using your force for mods instead of sideslipping, or using that when you can. So I assume you probably switched off between using the sideslip and using the force for mods.
Yeah.
But yeah, vectored cannons do potentially add a lot to one of these, and that may also be one of his uses for swarm tactics, is to give Keo an option to comfortably do actions and then also switch the cannons when you need to. Maybe. I don't know. I'd love to catch one of those in stream.
Yeah.
There's some interesting gimmicks in here I don't think I understand.
Yep, definitely. Very rarely ever see Keo running with Vectored. Always, not always Duke that I've flown against Keo, but yeah, Keo has always been a bane to my existence whenever I see Keo on the other side of the table.
For me, when I fly A-Wings, I rely so much on their chassis ability, I never want to lose it. And the vectored cannons takes that away, to me, is the biggest downside of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, then we got more resistance.
So we got, once again, Ray Falcon. We have, with Heroic, Rose, Novice, Finn, Engine Upgrade, So we saw that a little earlier. So not surprised that's how people agreed to, well, not agreed in a general discussion, but agreed independently that might be the best way to fly Ray. Elo in the X-Wing with R68. Lulo, which is a A-Wing.
Lulo is an A-Wing,
Yeah,
yes.
so is Merle, I believe. I don't see a lot of resistance across the table from me, so I could get a few of these wrong. And BB-8 in the pod with Chewie.
Merle, if I recall correctly, is a really low initiative blocker.
Okay.
Let me actually pull these up real quick. So I'm looking at, I want to look up Novice Technician here because I wanted to remind myself what is so strong about Novice Technician on Ray. If I remember correctly,
it gets
it's
rid
the
of
double
stress.
jam.
Novice Tech should remove your stress, if I recall correctly.
That's crazy though, because Resistance has such strong ways to remove stress. Okay, let's see. Novice Tech. End around, you may roll one attack die to repair one face-up damage card. There it is.
Yeah.
Then on a hit result, expose one damage card. Yikes.
Yeah.
And with attack dice having a very high odds of rolling a plain old hit, that's a very risky piece. But if you're bleeding some hull, it's not a bad idea. And it's one of those things where it's free to repair. Yeah, so it repairs a crit, but then can give you an additional crit. Like I was thinking it was the jam one. And then Merle, he's got a bullseye ability to do with blocking.
Okay.
It is when a friendly ship at range 0 to 2 performs a primary attack, if you are in the defender's bullseye, the defender rolls one fewer defense die. Okay, so that's why he's a blocker. It is kind of a bullseye related ability.
Yeah.
So you jam him in there to soften up whatever you want your other ships to kill. And he's I1, and I believe he's also 3 points. So he makes a really strong blocker with that I1. Elusive gives him a little bit of survivability, but you mostly use him to light up the targets that the other guys want to shoot at.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that Ray build, again, just prints out damage, combination with Merle to soften up defense. These are pieces that scare the bejesus out of me again. And this is, we're in the top 8. We're about to hit top 4, so these are folks that did really, really well and almost made it to the top cut. Yeah, there is some level of vindication to see all this much Resistance Falcon play, because that was one of the big pieces I expected to perform well, and it did, but did not make the top 4. But still, getting between the top 8 and the top 4 can be a really narrow cut to see what actually makes the decision between the two, because it could be a tie. Yeah, it could be 1 point difference. Like, it can be really, really close to get between those two. But we're into the top 4. I watched this one. I watched Marcel's game. I believe it was Marcel against Fawn. I believe so. I think that's the one I saw. And I was really rooting for Marcel to win that one because I wanted the final not to be a mirror match again. But yeah, we got Marcel running the Galactic Empire with Commandant Goran. And I want to say that's the one. Is he the one that lets your ships shoot even after they die?
I'll find out if you keep reading.
Sure. So I'm pretty sure, just to go ahead and predict this, Commandant Goran is the one that says if your ship is killed, if it's initiative killed, it still is not removed until its initiative step. So it still has a chance to shoot even after it's technically dead. Sensitive controls, TIE Interceptor, and shield upgrade. So sensitive controls is bold. So that gives it the system phase reposition instead of the usual kind of double action piece that comes with. Then we got Countdown, the Striker with shield upgrade, Disciplined and Ruthless. Wow.
Damn.
Countdown is an underused piece. Sorry?
No. Yeah, it's underused.
Yeah. Did I get Goran correct?
Goran, you did not. So at the start of the engagement phase, choose a friendly ship at 0 to 3 with a lower initiative than yours. The chosen ship gains 1 evade token and removes 1 non-stress red token.
Okay. Still crazy good. Yeah, Goran and Nash Windrider is the one I was thinking, is the one that lets you guys shoot after they die. Those two together in a list is something that I've always wanted to put in there because it gives you so much extra utility out of your ships. But Goran, yeah, is the one that does help your ships gain those free evades, which is really good. And then Countdown is the ship where when it takes damage from an attack, you just wipe everything it took and it takes 1 face down card. So it is an incredibly frustrating piece to remove in a striker. It goes down because strikers aren't super durable, but with the shield upgrade on that thing, it is a really frustrating piece to get rid of. And if I'm not mistaken, it does get Goran's ability to give him free evades. So you can pull off locks, you can pull off strains or depletes. He can pull off ion tokens. He can pull off. It's red, right? You said Goron removes red cards or red
Yeah,
tokens.
at a lower
Okay,
initiative, so can't. They're both
right.
initiative 4.
I believe. Oh, they are. Okay, so
Yeah.
Countdown doesn't benefit from that.
No.
But then we got Captain Faroff in the Reaper with targeting computer, tactical officer, ruthless. Then we've got Scimitar 1, one of the SL interceptors from Battle over Endor. Then Black Squadron Ace and Black Squadron Ace. So we're looking at a 6-ship list where Commandant Goran is giving free evades to some of them. I'm a little surprised to see this much. Scimitar 1 is another one I have to look up, and I shouldn't have to look up this many, but let's see, Scimitar 1 is an interceptor. Not in the wiki. Come on, guys. Scimitar 1 pilot X-Wing. I should have a faster way to look this up. Oh, it's a bomber.
Yeah, I was gonna say I couldn't find it in TIE Interceptor.
That is my bad.
That's still pretty good though.
It's still pretty good. So you've got the bomber in there. It is a low initiative bomber, I think. Let me see if I can find it. It is I3. Okay, so it does benefit from Goran. There it is. So it has the nimble bomber has after a friendly ship at range 0 to 3 performs an attack, you may spend 1 charge to acquire a lock on the defender. I3, it's only benefiting from that from some of those ships, not all of them. The aces though, those are I3, right?
The Black Squadron Aces? Yes.
Yeah, they're not the I1. So they're 3, so yes. So you could use the Black Squadron Aces to feed Scimitar 1 locks. Goran can do it. Countdown and Faroff can't. So you do still have 3 ships that can feed locks to Scimitar 1. And Scimitar 1 has marksmanship, no escape, which is that you get a reroll of a blank result if the defender has more enemy ships than friendly ships at range 0 to 1. But it's a primary attack. That doesn't work on your torpedoes.
Yeah.
But then he does have proton torpedoes and ion bombs. So a really good utility piece, being able to get free target locks before shooting those proton torpedoes. That's really good. That is a ship that I would run in a Nash Windrider list because you wanted to get those torpedoes off, and it's I3. So the chances of it getting taken apart before it does that are pretty high.
Well, this entire list can feed Scimitar 1 locks because everyone's either I3 or I4. So Scimitar can just shoot last. Yeah, Faroff is I3. So,
and I know I mixed this up. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yep, so everyone can feed Scimitar 1 those locks. You can't get rid of the weapon disable when you reload because that's an orange token. But still, Goran being able to strip target locks off your ships is great.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, there was a moment in the first or second engage where Marcel went to feed Scimitar 1 a lock, and the ship he was trying to feed the lock on was just outside of range 3, and so Scimitar 1 missed that torpedo engage. So didn't get the shot, didn't get that free lock, and that, as I recall, was an early and decisive turn that could have switched it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't remember what that, but it was like a pivotal moment where an enemy ship survived and a friendly ship died because of that miss, and it was just super close. A judge call was made to see if there was range. Yeah, I remember that moment from the stream. Yeah, and Marcel may be able to chime in and say what exactly that was, if he remembers. It was a long day, I'm sure, but huge props to Marcel for being the heroic person that made our top 4 not entirely rebels. Because it was close. There were a lot of candidates who could comfortably have gotten from the top 16 into the top 4 and made it all rebels.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then you're up for Levi.
Yeah, Levi Shard, probably Shard. Luke Skywalker, battle over Yavin, which, not surprised, he was just a really good 5-point ship to take. Proton torpedoes, all of these battle over Yavin shenanigans. Gina and Braylon in the B-Wings making top 4. Was happy and worried to see. Because I've always had... No, I haven't always had problems with them, but the one person I usually play against at my local is just wickedly strong with B-Wings. He picked them up.
Yeah.
Like, he was very good with B-Wings before Gina and Braylon came out, and then when these two dropped, he was undefeated for a couple weeks flying those two.
Yeah. You have 3 different ways to get very, very accurate proton torpedo.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Braylon does what? Plasma torpedoes?
Yes. One of
Yeah,
them
but
does
still,
plasma,
that
one of them does proton.
yeah, Gina. I'm fairly certain Gina's the proton. Gina's the better of the two in basically every way, as I recall, and was the more expensive of the two until that latest nerf. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Gina has
Yeah,
the
they're just
proton at I5, yeah.
yeah, they've got the perfect slow roll dial. They're really hard to get around, and then they have the bombs they can drop sideways. Like
Yeah.
the two lovers are still a really strong piece.
Oh, yeah.
The only thing that I see that can really consistently hold them back is a jam heavy first order.
Oh, yeah.
Like a jam heavy first order thing is a nightmare for these guys. But first order basically didn't appear at Worlds, so it's not surprising to see that these guys did well. But it's again a case where this is a squad. Actually, every single thing across that squad, in some level or another, was nerfed before this and still made top 4.
Mm-hmm.
And that, huge props to Levi for pulling that off. But then also that's kind of a shout out that it just is kind of a cautionary tale, I guess, of just that if a piece is nerfed, it doesn't mean it's bad.
Yeah. Keo with Lone Wolf ion missiles, also with the vectored cannons. And Sabine to round it out for 20 points.
I hope someone can tell us someday why vectored cannons are so good on Keo. I know Keo's low initiative, so that additional ability doesn't factor in as much. But still, I wouldn't do it. But I'd love to have someone change my mind on that. And Sabine at this point had 0 loadout, right? Because I know she's got 0 loadout in XWA. I believe that's that's mirrored. Yeah.
Still had 0 loadout.
Right, because Sabine with Beskar was pretty funny.
So vectored cannons gives you a systems phase boost.
Oh, it does give you this. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, so it gives you that maneuverability, and especially on an I3 like Keo,
Yeah.
I could see that arguably being better than the after action boost that you get on the base A-Wing chassis.
Mm-hmm.
I mostly run the higher initiative A-Wing, so I really love having that, but I could see how that might be the better call here. Yeah.
Yeah, but...
And so I guess you would probably take it for the system phase boost more than having the rear turret.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you can only
Right.
rotate in the systems phase.
Right.
Because it doesn't give you a rotate action.
Rotate action. Yeah.
You can only do
Is
it
it boost or rotate in the
boost
system
or
phase?
rotate in the system. You have to pick one.
Yeah, in a pinch, just like rotating Dengar's turret, I could see this being a good piece to have just in case. But yeah, getting that system phase boost is a pretty big perk. That makes sense. All right, then we got Fawn in our top 2, and we got a Rebel mirror match in the top 2. This was interesting because they flew, I've heard it said before, they flew basically the same thing, but not.
Yeah.
Because they took a lot of the same pieces, but tweaked a couple things here and there. Both flew really, really well and had a great match, but it was really interesting to see that these were the list archetypes that were the top 2. And they do not appear elsewhere, I want to say. We've seen variants of these, but this specific list archetype is kind of unique to the top 2. I don't remember seeing this combination of stuff in this way.
No, I don't. I didn't either.
Yeah, these are the only 2 instances of Fen Rao Fang in the top 16, if I'm not mistaken. And both of them made top 2.
No, there was one other Fen Rao top 16.
Was there?
Yes.
Okay.
I think I'll double check it.
Maybe. There was a scum one, and
no, there was Paul Heaver.
Ah, Paul. Okay, he ran Fen.
He ran.
Yeah. Okay.
He ran
there we go. He did with the swarm tactics. We talked about that.
Yeah.
Man, I had such an exciting thing about swarm tactics. My bad. Okay. But yeah, so Fen in the Fang and Rebels does really, really well. And to look at Fawn's list before you take Squishy Ball, who Column?
I think so.
Column?
I think Column is his name. Yeah.
Column. Yeah.
Column.
So yeah, so Fawn and Fawn I also associate with Separatists, but I could be misremembering that. But Fawn had Fen Rao Fang with Swarm Tactics again, nice. Clan Training, Beskar, Plating, so that's Paul's build. They're the exact same one that Paul ran. Boudica with Predator, Clan Training, and Beskar, very nice, very aggressive. That Predator is really good with that bonus attack because it gives you that offensive mod potentially on primary and bonus attack.
Yeah.
Then we get Kyo with Lone Wolf. This is the Mag Pulse Kyo, which probably helped beat those B-Wings. If I want to say it was, I don't remember who beat Marcel, but if it was a Mag Pulse Kyo, that would factor really well against his list, unless multiple ships are able to feed Scimitar 1 the target locks, because it is acquire a lock. So Scimitar 1 could acquire any number of locks in a turn in that list. But yeah, then we got Battle of Yavin Luke, and then we got Hall. Battle of Yavin Hall was really good.
Yeah. Hall is a potent Y-Wing.
Yeah. And then you want to take it away with our world champ.
World champ column. Wedge Antilles Battle over Endor. So that nice big punchy 5 dice gun with the advanced proton torps. Fenrau with Clan Crackshot Beskar. Boudica with Marksman Predator Beskar. So different builds on Fenrau and Boudica for column. Ahsoka Tano in the A-Wing, and I think this is kind of what helped clinch it out, was Ahsoka's ability triggering a couple of times. And the higher initiative Mag Pulse as well. Definitely would have made...
and Ahsoka being the one that...
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, go on.
And then the naked Sabine there, Sabine Tai. Ahsoka's the pilot that you called as being the top performer that was going to appear in top lists, and I believe this is the only instance of Ahsoka A-Wing that we saw, and it's number 1, the winner of the entire event.
Yeah.
So I want to say in our list, you said Rebels were going to win it, and a Rebel A-Wing and TIE combo was going to be in there, probably an X-Wing of some sort, and then Fangs in there to round up the list. And it is pretty funny that both of these guys ran X-Wing Fang A-Wing, but then mixed it up a little bit. And we had Sabine wins out over Hole, which is sad, because like Sabine is just such an obvious no-brainer, like objective piece. You just bring it in there, and Hole is I personally consider more interesting, but could see where he's a little bit more limited than Sabine.
Yeah, but Ahsoka, that just I-5 support piece with Mag Pulse is just does dirty work.
And the combination of
because I can't.
A-Wing dial plus 3 force.
Yeah, I can't remember. Does Battle over Yavin Luke have instinctive aim baked into him?
He does.
He does. Yeah. Okay, so doesn't shut down Luke as much with the I-5 Mag Pulse, but shuts down ships like Hull, shuts down ships like Scimitar 1, Gina and/or Braylon. Just getting that 3 dice out there. Wait, 3 dice out there. Of course, you've got instinctive aim if you don't get the target lock you want. But target lock, force, Mag Pulse will usually hit in Agility 1, Agility 2 ship. 7. I don't know the exact math, but I would say at least 70% of the time. And that shuts down a lot of big hits that a lot of these ships want to be swinging in the first round of engagement. And her ability is nothing to laugh at either. After you fully execute a maneuver, you may choose a friendly ship at 1 to 2 and spend 2 force. That ship may perform an action even while stressed.
And she can do that and has 3 force base, right? So in a given turn, she could do that and then also still have a force. It would be a couple turns before she could do that again, but has the option to do that.
Yeah,
so she could lock, coordinate, and still have a 1.5 modded Mag Pulse.
Yeah, and that ship doesn't need to have moved either. So it's a free coordinate. So Wedge can get lock focus. Fenrau can get he can also give himself a target lock as well if needed. It does a lot. Ahsoka in the A-Wing does a lot of work.
Yeah, and really, really strong. And then I also wanted to call out a difference in the Boudica build. I talked about why Predator was good because the passive mod you could use in multiple attacks.
Yeah.
Same goes for Marksmanship.
Mm-hmm.
Marksmanship does not stress you and can potentially be both your bonus attack and your primary attack, which is helpful in some objective matches, but then also just to land key crits, which I imagine did factor in several times over the course of the tournament. So it's not the same defensive level of build as clan training is, but it
No.
potentially is better with a ship that can shoot twice.
You also don't need that clan
And
training
then-
on Boudica with the Soaker on the table. Just give a free focus.
True. And I think that Wedge, I really don't know if I would take a bet on whether Wedge is a better X-Wing than Luke. The I6 is nice, especially with a lot of the other stuff on the table. Potentially delete an I5 before it shoots. Like, there's definitely some advantages
yeah.
there, but yeah, with Luke and Wedge being the same cost, I don't know who comes out on top necessarily, like, as the better one to take in a list, but pretty wild. Shout out to Column as well. This obviously was winning back some karma after winning, but I've got a buddy in Canada who went to a tournament that was where Column was a judge and may potentially been the TO as well, and he came to that tournament with a giant bag of swag from Worlds that he shared with folks who came to play. Like, the haul that they got in terms of swag from that event was just completely insane.
Because
I
AMG
got
was
the
just
pictures of that.
AMG was just clearing out their warehouse at that point.
Yeah, and then also just to volunteer to be a judge, that's a really cool thing to do, just in general. And then to have the world champion like measuring stuff for people at tables was like a bit of a hero worship moment for some of the players there. So that's really cool. And I know it's just great people in the community in general, but I wanted to be sure to shout out that because I heard about that specifically after this. Yeah, so big thoughts. Like, what do we see across the board? Why are these lists the one that make the top 8? Like, we've talked individually about them, but why in general are these the things that came up? Like, if you were to put out a blueprint of what's a good top 16 list, let's see, we had some notes on this. We were talking about buried my notes. Let's see, the first thing was okay, yes. So what makes these good? And then we have kind of a zinger question after that. So in terms of ship count, we're talking about both kill points and objectives. The average list size was 5, and we saw very few top performing lists go under that. We saw a few go over that. There are a few 6-ship lists in here, but 5 is kind of the standard list size. So if you're making lists that are under 5 ships in AMG points, for sure, that's definitely something to look at and see, like, can I shuffle this to get 5 and be a little bit more competitive and just have more table presence? That seems very consistent. The first time we see a 4-ship list is in top 8. We do see one 4-ship that made top 8.
Yeah, so
I think
out
that's
of the top 16, only
one that did.
3 of them were four ships. Everything was 5 ships or above.
Yep. So we got what? Louis,
Wraith,
Duncan, and
Wraith.
And the Wraith. Yep. Some of the luminaries of the community thought that it was worth bringing a 4-ship. And did Wraithos bring a double Falcon?
No, he didn't.
Oh, that's Flyboy Poe. Okay,
that's
yeah.
Flyboy Poe, yeah.
Okay, could have been another Falcon. Yeah, man, okay. And that's crazy. So the best performing 4-ship list was top 8, which is still really freaking good, but that's very risky play where you lose 1 ship and you're down. And like, if you're up against the standard 5-ship list and you lose 1, it's 3 versus 5 instead of 4 versus 5. And that can snowball really fast in terms of objective control, board control, target saturation. Yeah, because if you get under in ship count, you can start. It's a lot easier for your opponent to focus fire on what you have left. Yeah, and that's been something that's been sort of up and down and across the entire history of the game is list sizes creep up, creep down. It looks like right now we're fairly comfortably at a 5+ ship list meta.
Yeah.
And that's AMG points. I believe X-Wing Alliance, and we can talk about that more in a second, is a little bit more forgiving with smaller list sizes. But some factions, like Separatists and Empire, are still able to field 6-7 ship lists comfortably. There's still a pretty big risk in taking a 4-ship or even a 3-ship list. Can, but watch out. Yeah, and then in terms of what performed really well, if we're looking at like the pieces that made our top 4, you've got objective mooks, you've got your Ties, Sabine, Hull, well, not less so Hull, and Sabine again. you've got pieces whose sole purpose is to be cheap objective ones. Shout
Yeah.
out to Marcel and Fawn for both bringing kind of filler mooks. I guess Keo is his objective piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, shout out to Marcel for bringing the Black Squadron Aces. The two of them is really efficient, gives you double objective pieces,
Mhm.
and that it also feeds Scimitar 1, and they benefit from Goran's abilities. A really cool build. I like seeing that. That was interesting. And I don't think I've ever seen a squad like this before either.
No, I
Like,
don't
this is
recall hearing even discussions of stuff like this.
yeah, and it doesn't have the kind of bursty damage potential you'd see. This is definitely kind of an attrition list where it chips away at your opponent, uses a lot of maneuvering and objectives to really put pressure on them. It's very good, but I don't see. So we got a 3 attack. Strikers have base 3 attack dice, right?
Uh, I think
I
so.
want to say yes, because they only have 2 native evade.
Don't quote me.
Strikers?
Yeah, strikers have 3. So does the Reaper and Captain Feroth as well.
Yep. So we got 3 2s or 3 3s. So
Three,
they all have 3
yeah.
red dice, and then this guy has 4 with the torpedoes when he gets those off, and then the 2 objective pieces just throw 2, but have the extra damage potential of feeding Scimitar 1. So like, there's a lot of very balanced damage potential in this too. It doesn't have the burst of this one
Mm-hmm.
with your double protorps. Yeah, but you do see a lot of these kind of factor in bonus attacks, factor in heavy offense with durability and objective play. Like, these are very balanced lists in terms of they're hard to kill, they do a lot of extra damage, and they can control the board comfortably.
Yeah.
There's some durability, there's some speed, there's a lot of action flexibility, especially in those tops with your swarm tactics and Ahsoka pilots. You've got some coordinate options in there. It's really cool to see that, because I know we've had a lot of metas where coordinate wasn't very powerful, and to see just one coordinator, especially like kind of a limited or high risk coordinator, like Fen spending his action, or like Ahsoka spending her force, or taking a 4-point A-wing in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool to see that. Ahsoka was 5 before this tournament, if I recall correctly. I think she got a buff before this.
I can't remember.
I don't either, but looking at this, it's what? 5, 5, 4, 2.
4-2. Yeah, so she's 4 points.
17. So she's 4 points. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so a 4-point A-wing is hard to justify, but still, she was 5, and I'm fairly certain she came down and then got a bit of a dip in loadout to compensate. But still, like, a really strong piece. I'm surprised more people didn't consider.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wild. Okay, and then if you look at our resistance list, they kind of did the same thing, but where they really struggle is they don't have a strong objective piece. They have the pod, but they're much more focused on kill points. They're more 2.0 meta, punchy.
Mm-hmm.
And then, honestly, I think the B-Wings also suffer on objectives, where they're very dangerous, they're very scary, but if someone's able to flank around and control the board a bit, they can pull that apart fairly quickly, as long as they don't give you any easy kills. It can be an uphill battle running these, especially with the extra cost of these.
Yeah.
God, that's a lot of damage.
It is a lot of damage in that Wedge Jeelan Braylon hole. That is a lot of damage coming up.
Yeah, and I could see there may be 2 metas going on here where the very punchy aggressive damage lists were able to take down the Falcon lists, and those 2 knocked each other out, so we ended up filtering out the more consistent lists at the top.
Might have been what had happened there, yeah.
The toothpaste meta, where some stuff is squeezed out to the top, but it doesn't mean there wasn't other stuff in there.
Mm-hmm.
That got really gross. That's not a great metaphor. But yeah, so I think that resistance still was really strong. I was a little surprised at how this meta balanced out. And then, so follow-up question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, actually, let's talk about, so in the context of what we talked about, Separatists make no sense.
No.
They don't fit at all into the narrative so far. They do have board control. They're very, very good at objectives, so that really helps them kind of pull forward.
It's just the 7 bodies on the table just makes them really difficult to... I mean, they're not difficult to burn down because their agility isn't the highest in the world, but it's still 7 bodies on the table that are returning shots if you don't get them killed. It's still a lot of arcs you have to dodge. It's still a lot of physical presence on the table as well. They would do very well with controlling objectives. Very easy for them to just, with Assault at the Satellite Array, just set up as many asteroids as you can next to objectives and just sit a droid on it. And just constantly tick one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think where they struggle is, and they do actually both have some level coordinate. So you got that Hondo crew and then that Kraken both give you some level coordinate, similar to what we saw in the top lists. I think where they struggle is if your opponent, there are two things that hold them back. Number one is if your opponent is scoring any objective points, these do bleed kill points.
Yes.
And if you're killing 3 2-point ships, that's the same as killing 1 6-point ship. So that if they're easy enough to kill, there's a very tricky balance to make these lists competitive without making them like completely indestructible.
Yep.
And right now they fall in the point where they give you a target-rich environment where it's very easy to get kill points to top off your objective points. These two also. Go ahead.
No, it's very, I was just saying, it's very easy. A lot of the lists that performed in the top 8 and above throw a lot of dice very quickly, which burns through to agility droids very fast.
Yeah, and if you're losing 1 or 2 per turn, that's gonna shut down what you got really fast. Then we've got the high risk of Sun Fac, where if someone takes down Sun Fac, they get, I think, 5 points. And then also these do kind of chip damage. You don't have any of the burst damage you'd expect from other lists.
No.
So they can take something down a couple attacks at a time, but if most of your attacks are 2-die attacks, the chances of them getting evaded, the chances of doing extra damage fast enough, like your damage potential goes down very quickly and your total damage is never all that high. So these can burn down something like a Falcon if they're all able to get guns on it and hit it through that evade. You get one TIE Interceptor in there that's able to soak some shots, and suddenly that flips the whole thing around. Yeah, so really vulnerable to die variants just because they have a low number of dice on offense and defense, and that hurts. I'm glad to see they did this well, but I do also see why they didn't break the top 8.
Yeah, Discord missiles are great for controlling objectives and lanes as well, because Discord missiles are guaranteed to do a crit, which will kick a crate.
Right.
At most, Discord missiles are the buzz droids are going to be doing 2 crits onto a ship, assuming they can be placed behind the ship after they finish their movement.
So if they finish their movement, it still stays in the front. If they fly through it, it still stays in the front. The only way to get it off is to shoot it off or to hit something with it, or to have it so it can't be placed in the front. If I recall correctly.
Actual card for it.
That was confusing, but I think we've talked about this before, and I may have had it wrong.
So after an enemy ship overlaps or moves through a buzz droid swarm, the swarm's controlling player relocates it by aligning the tab to that ship's front or rear guides. Front or rear guides, so you are right. The swarm cannot be aligned to a set of the ship's guides if doing so would cause it to overlap an object. If the swarm cannot be placed at a chosen set of dies, its controlling player must align it to the other set of the ship's guides.
Yep.
So,
So if it's in a place where you can't place it on the front, you have to place it on the rear.
Yeah.
They can be shot at again. One thing I did once that I was really proud of is I had a ship that flew through and picked them up, and then the ship that moved immediately after picked them off the front of that ship.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to just like take it and be like, well, I will take these. And then that one was able to barrel roll. So one ship took them, other ship popped over, and then was able to offload them with an action right away.
Exactly.
One of my proudest chances ever. I didn't take a single damage from that buzz droid swarm. But yes, so if you get them on the front of a ship and it does nothing to take it out, it's in open space and doesn't bump anything, it will continue taking crits indefinitely.
Yeah.
So you can use these really effectively on a Falcon, but if they K-turn and then start going the other direction, if I'm not mistaken, they don't overlap through them again. Right? But so if they do a K-turn and flip, do the buzz droids flip forward with them?
Yes, because you overlap them. So your guide is going through them.
Yeah, and so the controlling player could still put them on your front guide so you fly through them again.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's the barrel roll, shoot them off, ram them. Discord missiles are still really good.
Oh, yeah.
But you have to fire them, you have to hit them, and then it has to be something that cares about them, and it also has to be early enough that that damage actually makes a difference.
Oh, yeah.
because they could get tame crits, or it could be a falcon that doesn't give a crap.
Yep.
Yeah. Or it could be a tri-fighter and an interceptor who really cares. Although if they have barrel roll, they pretty much just pop off unless you also box them in somewhere.
Yeah, but the idea is you're throwing that many Discord missiles, they can't afford to waste a ship shooting at a buzz droid swarm. At the buzz droids.
Yeah, and one of these lists has 2 and the other one has 3, right?
Yeah.
So you got 3 here too. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, interesting.
So they're still great for zone control.
Okay.
You can still definitely force choke points to be closed with them.
Right.
You can just litter them all over the table as well as zone control. Make ships fly in the direction you want them to fly in, unless the pilot's really confident in their ability.
Yeah, and I love the flexibility of placement where you put them after you move as an action. Being an action sucks.
Sorry,
so they're not
they
bombs,
are not
so you
an
don't drop
action.
them and leave.
No, so at the start of the engagement
they're not?
phase, you may spend 1 calculate
okay.
and 1 energy to launch a buzz droid swarm. So if you hit someone with the buzz droids, they're taking that crit unless it gets shot off, because you can't barrel roll off it unless you've got something which allows you to perform an action in the engagement phase.
Ah, yes, that's right. Okay. Yes, quite right. So you do kind of get a guaranteed crit off those. Those are, wow, yeah.
Yeah.
And you can take an additional action as long as you have a calculate token to launch them.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's where Kraken can come in, because you can do like a target lock or something and still have the calculate from before to still launch your Discord missiles. Yeah.
Most definitely.
Yeah. Nice. All right, so I'm going to jump to stats. So I'm going to have my, yeah, there we go. And this is just kind of a quick breakdown of the list of the top 53 we're looking at. This is below what we looked at. Oh, actually, before I go to that, are there any other lists outside of these in the top 53 that you thought that you wanted to talk about?
Quick squeeze. There was a Boba Fett list, so that probably makes you really happy.
Here. I do love Boba Fett. I'm very, personally very grateful to every single person that went to Adepticon, especially the final supported one, and brought a Boba Fett pilot. I love you, you're a hero, and it's amazing. I'm sorry you didn't place higher, but you did not bad. We've got 1 here, we've got 1 here.
4 scum lists and 2 of them flow Boba.
Yeah, then we got a Dengar, we got a Dengar Han. And this, looking at these, it was really cool to see that, because these lists did okay. They made day 2. And then also, every single one of these lists is going to benefit dramatically in some way from the armed and dangerous stuff that the XWA put out.
Oh, yeah.
And then also XWA points, like a 5-point Fen, or a 6-point Fen that has all the upgrades you need.
Mm-hmm.
The changed Boba is a very interesting piece that I really like. The changed Dengar has some extra options. The new Han is a monster, and anybody who likes flying the Han Falcon is probably really, really going to enjoy that updated Falcon, because it's going to throw very consistent damage.
Oh yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, not
Ryan
really.
Farmer made it. Shout out to Ryan Farmer of, I'm going to call him out as the luminary, former top of the Fly Better podcast. Always miss the guy. I met him at the last Worlds, where he had a backpack full of tokens and was just like raining them on people. He handed me the backpack, and I just took like a piddly little handful, and he looked at me like I was a complete idiot and just like grabbed a giant fistful and just like poured it into my cupped hands where I couldn't even hold it. Yeah, and I've been distributing those ever since. That's pretty great.
There is actually a 3-ship list that made it into the final day.
Whoa. Okay, we got to talk about that one.
Colonel Jendon,
didn't make the
Battle
top cut,
over
but...
Endor, Darth Vader with Malice HLC, so double
defender,
and Feroff with Ruthless Tack targeting.
And Feroff is the defensive one, right? I always mix that up.
Yeah, Feroff is
so
the defensive
Vizier's
one.
the coordinate one, Feroff is the defensive one, and then there's one other one that has the offensive mod, and that one scares the pants off me. That's a giant murder ball. I hate that ship. I have a hard enough time killing Reapers as is, and one that can get free offensive mods on me is a mess. Feroff seems to be the default, but I want to say that the other one is 1 point more expensive. And I can never remember his name because I blocked it out.
Major Vermeil.
Yeah, wow. A 3. That's right, Vermeil. Yeah. Ugh. Was it less loadout and a point more expensive?
More loadout, point more expensive.
Okay. So he can do a lot, but
yeah.
yeah. And he's got the mirror ability. Does the same thing Feroff does, but it's for offensive dice instead of defensive dice.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this makes sense here. So there's no way to run Palp in this list.
No.
And Ruthless in a 3-ship list with double defender, that is gutsy.
Very gutsy.
Because Jendon has a extra die attack if he spends a shield, right? So if you're using Ruthless, you're taking off his ability, or you're Ruthlessing your own Vader, which I could see being worth it if you have a bunch of hit points and you just need something to die. But man, I'm trying to picture the game that would have happened between these guys and one of those Separatist lists.
So Jendon Battle Over Endor is that new push the limit, computer assisted handling, proton cannons, no escape.
And he's got the ability where he can spend a shield to add an extra attack.
No, it is while you defend, if you're not shielded, you may change one of your blank results to a focus result for Battle Over Endor.
Oh, so that actually, so you may want to spend his shields for extra damage.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the 6.1. Okay, he's not the 7-point scary one.
No, that's yours. 6 points. He's 7.
Jendon is still 7?
Yeah.
And he doesn't have the way to roll extra attack dice? Okay, I'm just mixing him up with someone else.
He does, because he's the Battle Over Endor, he's got Chiss Engineering, so after you fully execute the 3 to 5, you may perform a target lock. And yeah, while attacking, because it's Chiss, if you're not stressed, you can spend 1 shield to apply the range 1 bonus.
That's it. So yeah, he can throw 4 dice at range 2 to 3. Yeah, okay. So he does have that. He has the extra attack die 1. He's the Proton Torpedo Defender. But, I mean, he spends a shield to do it, so it's still...
Proton
okay.
Cannon. Proton Cannon Defender.
That's right, the 5-die Proton Cannon.
Yeah. And computer-assisted handling is just, after you fully execute a maneuver, you can spend 1 energy to perform a boost or barrel roll.
That's right. And yeah, so a defender that doesn't have to fly in straight lines. I mean, Jendon is a really good defender and a really fun ship to fly.
Mm-hmm.
So we may, in X-Wing Alliance, we may see more 3 ships like this one. And actually thinking about this, this is probably a really good matchup into those Separatist lists, because each of these pieces will remove a droid every turn.
Oh, yeah.
And Jendon could remove a rogue in 1 turn. Unless you roll really badly and they take you out in the first couple rounds, which is unlikely. But yeah, and then we saw a lot of somewhat variance in some of the other stuff we saw. So we are seeing a bunch of Feroff and a bunch of Reapers. Oh, there's Vermeil. That's the 5.1. Yeah, this terrifies me. This is actually very similar to some of the lists that have just beaten the crap out of me repeatedly for years. So Soontir Battle Over Endor is new to me, but Vermeil with Palp and Vader, very familiar, and then the double Black Squadron Ace to do objective pieces. This is a very scary list. Yeah, it just may struggle if you lose any of these top pieces. That is an uphill battle real quick. It's a very top-heavy list, and these also worth a bunch of points.
Yeah, Ion Limiter Override on Vermeil is very interesting. After you fully execute a red maneuver, you can perform a barrel roll action. So red stop and grab a barrel roll out of it. Or you're too hard, or you're 1 hard, or you're 1 hard, or you're 2 hard, or you're 1 sloop. You can barrel roll off of those as well.
And you can do it, it said you can do it even while stressed?
Yep.
Okay. Anyone who has never flown Vermeil should fly literally this list, because Vermeil with Baffle is already incredibly strong. Adding a barrel roll with his free passive offensive mod, and of course Palp will just help out the rest of your list. Like that's a very frightening ship.
Oh yeah.
And it's a Reaper that's already crazy. And this guy, Captain Hark, it's cool to see him. For a second I read that as the Captain Hark pilot in the Gauntlet, but no, it's a Reaper with Captain Hark crew. Still really good.
Mm-hmm.
And this has Jendon, Soontir, Mauler. I haven't seen Mauler Mythal in a long time. Dang, okay. Oh, and this is Psych J7 of oh, I know this. It's one of the big podcasts, and I know him. Marcel, I think, was talking about this list, or somebody on the podcast today was talking about this list, where every single one of these ships has some ability to boost.
Mm.
And somebody saw this coming at them and was like, that list is going to try to get in my face immediately. And they were able to beat it because they kind of saw that coming.
Yeah.
That's gnarly. That's really aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
I do really love Deadeye Shot on Merrick Steel. I love Deadeye Shot just as a talent. It's really... That's the one where if you have Bullseye and you hit an opponent, you can spend a hit or spend a crit down to a hit to flip someone's damage card. So if a ship already has damage cards, you can turn those into crits, which is really good on a ship that's just loading up on damage cards. And I think I've talked about this a bunch. I love it in combination with Bosk Gunner, so you can use it and intentionally miss to then throw a fully modded follow-up attack against the same target.
Yeah.
And then you can Deadeye Shot again if you need to, but it's cool tech.
Yeah.
Both if you're, like, say you're shooting at a TIE fighter in Bullseye, it's got 2 damage cards, you roll 1 hit. To have Deadeye Shot to just potentially outright kill it, even though you're almost guaranteed to miss it, is really, really good.
Oh, yeah.
But is it good enough to spend the points? I don't know. But yeah, we could talk about these all day, but I want to just kind of scan them real quick. It is pretty funny. There are first order lists in the tournament in day 2. They made it somewhere. And they do kind of the standard first order thing. They're 5-ship lists with a ton of pieces and a lot of damage, and they have that high initiative mag pulse, I think, in all of them.
Yes, this was
Kylo just has the...
This was day 3.
Oh, right. This is cut day. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Because there was...
Yeah, okay, so they do have access...
2 rounds of qualifying.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I missed that. It was a slightly different format than last time.
Yeah, they didn't do it. They did it differently this year. In previous years, it was Last Chance, which was a mad rush for people who hadn't won invites. Then day 2 was up to the top 32 or top 64, I think it was. And then day 3 was your final cuts, single elimination.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Shout out to Maverick. I love this Tycho build.
Oh, no,
and that's custom Tycho A-Wing who can do actions while stressed. So if I'm not mistaken, you could focus boost into a hard 1 for 2 stress, and then have proton rockets ready to I-5 and put it in a lot of different places.
Yeah. Tycho Daredevil is good fun.
I love Tycho. He's so much fun. Yeah. Good to see that. And then we got a Fang Spam, double Clan Ren Volunteers. Got Kanan in the VCX. He did make it. A double tapping Kanan if I see the dorsal ghost title. No, it has to have a dock ship to do the double tap, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Still, Saw Crew and a VCX is another combination that I feel like should be really, really good because it throws that native 4 attack dice. If you have a target lock and Saw, you have a double mod into crits. So that is just a really strong piece. But I think that topping that off with these 2 is just too many eggs in too few baskets.
Yeah.
Because these are all really expensive, and but still, that's a scary jouster.
Oh yeah.
And then this is the top 2 list. This is the kind of thing we saw all the way at the top with Ahsoka A-Wing. Ooh, vectored cannons on Ahsoka. Interesting call.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, you were talking up the advantages of Mag Pulse on Ahsoka. This doesn't have that.
No.
And it's Sabine A-Wing. Man, Rami, love you too. That is just... Love it. Underrated piece.
Triple A-Wing, double X-Wing in that one.
Nice. Yeah, triple A-Wing, double X. Yeah, this is a really good list too. I could see this doing really well in a lot of cases. And it does have that coordinate flexibility.
Yep.
Cool. Then we got more double B-Wings. So double B-Wings did still appear, and there's a spot
I
wanted to pop up on this. Nothing really jumping out here. How you doing over there? Need some coffee?
Yeah, no, I'm fine.
Okay, I wanted to go ahead and stop here because for the way this is organized, it's always funny. It did show all of the Republic lists in here too, and so we had Arc Spam. It was actually present, but did not perform well. Didn't crack the top 16 at all. We didn't see a single Republic list of any kind make the top 16.
Yeah.
And this is a case where these lists were also nerfed pretty heavily. but I still expected them to make an impact. And we've got the like world's champion list. We've got 2 of those. Basically what we saw before with the 3 standard loadout arcs plus 2 or 3 extras.
Yeah.
Usually, who is that? Is that a torrent? Is that oddball torrent, or is that? I think so.
It would have to be.
Crew slot, and that's a lat.
That's a lat?
It's a lat. Sinker, is it? Yeah, because it's got a crew.
Yeah. It just shows how often I fly against Republic.
I was just looking at this card. I think I'm mixing it up because I looked at Sicko.
Yeah.
Sinker extra miniatures. And we should know this. This probably goes to show why we didn't see much of this.
So oddball is a Y-wing.
Sinker's an arc.
Arc?
Sinker's an arc.
Okay,
Oh, that's okay. So that's four arcs and a Y-wing. Oh my god, what a tank! That'd be so frustrating to fly against.
Oh yeah. Double swarm tactics as well.
Yeah, so Sinker is an I3. So you've got swarm tactics at I5 and I3. So you have 2 different ways to coordinate a different.
Well, you oddball Sinker up to 5, and then Sinker throws it off to someone else.
Sorry, I was mixing that up with Squad Leader, which I think I also actually did with the Fen Raus. Are all of these Fen Raus? Yeah, they're swarm tactics. I did that completely wrong this whole time. Swarm tactics is the one where you up people's initiative to 6, so that's really good. I like the Fen with Squad Leader because I'm a giant weirdo.
Yeah.
With the coordinate, but no, this will swarm something up to I6. Okay, that makes more sense. That's passive, doesn't cost you an action. You just do it.
Yeah.
And you could make Luke whole. Yeah, that's a frightening tech.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what is it that made these Republic lists not perform as well as they did last year? I know it got nerfed, so I think
that's a part, but they were solved at this point.
So people just were used to fighting them.
Yeah, when they burst onto the scene this time last year. So when I say this time, I mean like right before Worlds, like right before Adepticon 24. They were pretty new. I think Siege of Coruscant at that point was only a month or 2 old, maybe 3 tops. There was no points update before Worlds to kind of curtail it in, because they had been oppressive for about a month or 2 beforehand. I remember I had a bunch of tourney prep leading into around Adepticon time, where it was arcs. Yeah, this is when I performed well at an event. Me and Lucky Duck practiced a lot of arcs, but I think at this point they were solved. Everyone knew how to deal with them. Everyone knew the weaknesses of them, and yes, they got nerfed, but a lot of things changed as well. So they were really...
Battle over Endor.
Yeah, Battle over Endor changed a lot.
Yeah,
that's what made...
So I'm not chewing that.
No, that's what really made Rebels super oppressive. Battle over Endor, a lot of... Sure, the top 2 lists didn't have any Battle of Endor stuff. Okay, one of them did in Wedge, but Fen Rau, Boudica, they were both released before Siege of Coruscant.
Right.
Same with Kyo. Same with Battle over Yavin, Luke, and Hull as well. They were out before Siege of Coruscant as well. So it's just...
And this is...
points
to
and...
jump in there real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
That may also be where we might overanalyze these matchups against arcs, because I don't particularly like either of these lists against arcs. But there weren't that many arcs.
No.
So even if one of these guys lost a game against arcs, or they could potentially have never played against arcs, so we don't have that saturation of arcs in the meta, so the lists that don't do them as well wouldn't suffer for it because they didn't have to play them.
Yeah.
And could potentially have done poorly had they hit them in one of the cuts.
Oh, yeah. But at that point, it was a lot of Rebel mirror matchups. coming into this day. Like, I think if you kick it over to the stat screen, it is.
Oh yeah. I did real quick before I jump to that. I did want to highlight this.
Yeah, go ahead.
There are two of these that have really like this one and this one I really like. These are still dedicated Republic players that didn't bring arc spam. They brought really interesting big spam lists.
Mm-hmm.
This one particularly, we got, what is that? D95, oh crap, V-Wing, Y-Wing,
yeah.
Y-Wing.
Triple
Click is another V-Wing. There's a bunch of
V-Wings. 4 V-Wings.
1, 2, 3. Yep, 4. Yeah, 4 V-Wings, 2 Y-Wings, and a
Z95.
Z95. Yeah, that's a really dice-dependent list because they don't have a lot of offense.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, interesting. But still, cool to see that. But yeah, that jumps to our statistics. And this is of these top 53. This is kind of the raw numbers. So Rebels at 21, comfortably dominating the meta, with a distant second of Resistance and Empire, close second at 10 and 9, respectively.
Mm-hmm.
And then everybody else basically doesn't even appear. Separatists, those two, pretty proud of this. They got 100% cut rate, though, from this top 53 into the top 16.
Oh, yeah.
First Order, real bummer. Of the 3 that were in the cut day that made day 2, none of them. Sorry, you said it was day 3?
Yeah, day 3.
Yeah, not a single one of those First Order ships actually lists made it to the top 16. And it's only 3, so like that could easily have swung one way or the other, but still, that's teeny tiny. But nearly half of the top 16 was Rebels.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, both a combination of those lists being very powerful, but also the other meta players kind of pushing each other out and not having tech to counter the Rebel stuff as directly.
Yeah.
Because if you look at those Rebel lists, the ones that perform well, they're all small base. They rely heavily on actions, and they rely heavily on a combination of objective control and winning jousts.
Oh, yeah.
And they do a little bit of everything, but there are definitely ways to edge them out. And if you can comfortably kill an X-Wing on a joust, or comfortably kill a Fang fighter, or chuck bombs or something at them, there are definitely ways to counter those lists. They're not unbeatable, but there's so much in the meta that's kind of designed to beat each other and not the Rebels, that it gave the Rebels kind of an easier way to get in, plus just being absolutely dominant in kind of number of players.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy to also look at Empire. A lot of the conversion rate from this, like, making day 3 to actually getting into the top 16 was much higher for Resistance than Empire. Resistance did pretty well. Half of the players in that day 3 made it to the top 16. Only 2 of the Empire players made it. So 1 in 5-ish versus 1 in 10. Mm-hmm. Excuse me, 1 in 5-ish versus half.
And you also have to look at the 2 best lists at the day being the Boudica Fen lists. Fen gets rid of gets rid of non-lock tokens.
Right.
And Boudica, you're getting a double tap out of Boudica. So you're essentially shooting up to 6 times with these lists.
Right.
It's a lot of damage and hard to deal with, especially because those Fangs just love being at that range 1 band because of Beskar, because of Concordia.
Yeah, and Rebel Fen's ability triggers when you engage, right?
I think it's similar to his crew.
His
Scum crew. So before a friendly ship at 1 to 2 engage. Oh no, so yeah, Scum. It's the exact same as Scum crew. So before a friendly ship at range 1 to 2 engages, if there's an enemy ship in its front arc at range 1, that friendly ship may remove 1 non-red lock. It's better than Scum crew because the Scum crew, they must have moved to speed greater than 0.
Right, but it is a crew. Yeah.
It's a crew, but I would rather take. I'd rather take Fen in a Fang with that ability than a Fen crew on a Scum ship.
The Fen crew has bigger range, right?
I think it's the same or smaller.
I want to say it's 0 to 2. I missed what the pilot was.
Fen Rao is 0 to 2. Yeah.
Okay, so they're both 0 to 2. All right, so that makes sense. I was just thinking about Boudica because the bonus shot, you take a deplete to do it. But if you have
Yeah.
Fen on the table close enough to Bodica, then you do your engagement and you remove the deplete before you shoot. So you get that
Yeah.
kind of wingmate bonus, especially if you're able to line up those predators and that marksmanship and columns list. Yeah, there's a lot you can do with that. And you're totally right. A 5-ship list that punches like a 6-ship list is really, there's a lot going on there. There's also a lot of bad decisions where Bodica being on the table just discourages people from taking shots.
Yep.
I don't remember what match it was, but I know of at least one matchup. I think there were 2 shots one player didn't take because they didn't want to take the Bodica counter shots. I think they were overly scared of that.
Yeah.
And a psychological tool like that is hugely valuable in a long event like this.
Oh yeah. And because Bodica's I4, so most of the list is being shot at earlier with both of these guys. So Fenrir's 6,
right.
Luke is 5, and looking at the rest of what everyone else has brought, you're looking at 4 and 5s on the table as well. So it's very easy for you to get
of the stuff that right
of the stuff
that
made the top.
got here.
Yeah,
like some of the stuff that was knocked out before was. Yeah, there was.
Yeah.
I was surprised we didn't see any Poe Falcons. I would have expected him to come up with the power of Initiative 6 in this. Being able to have a Falcon shot at I6 feels pretty good, and we didn't see anything capable of doing that.
Yeah.
Just interesting, and I think that is where we're going to see Scum, Han, SL, and XWA kind of make more of a splash than we may be ready for.
Yeah.
But to go ahead and talk this through, so Fen swarms up Bodica. Bodica and Ven both shoot at I6. And then Bodica can take that bonus shot at any initiative after that.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't matter if you have the deplete because you already shot.
Yep.
Yeah, so you get the deplete after shooting. Yeah, so that would give you the full die bonus shots. So the 6 dice instead of 5 is meaningful over a couple turns.
Yep.
Yeah, that's another way to get rid of that, because that's 2 ways that Fen can get rid of Bodica's downside of doing the bonus shot.
Oh yeah.
And if you're going up against another I6 or an I5, you got Fen and Bodica both shot, and then they either shoot at one of them or do something silly and risk taking that full die shot back from Bodica. Then they could have taken 9 dice for 1 attack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Wedge, Fen, Bodica, all at I6 I think is what ended up squeaking it out for Column, if I remember.
But Column did not take swarm tactics on Fen.
No, he didn't. You are right. Okay.
So, but I assume he probably did swarm up Bodica just to do the same thing. Well, no, he couldn't swarm up.
Couldn't swarm up Bodica.
But it was that Ahsoka mag pulse, I think, that really clinched that one.
Because Fen in Farn's list did swarm up Bodica, but swarming up Hole as well does a lot of damage. Same with Luke. So.
Yeah, and here you can also swarm up Kyo, and then you have an I6 mag pulse.
Yep.
Not as good as a Ahsoka mag pulse, but still good.
Yeah. I can't remember.
And you turn off Lone Wolf.
Yeah, I can't remember how you do turn off Lone Wolf. I can't remember how it ended up playing out. I know it was a bit of a kerfuffle in the middle of the table. I don't think dice variants played too much, but please don't quote me.
You gotta do the math right now.
Oh no.
There was one famous moment, I believe it was caught on one of the stream days, where somebody moved a Falcon and it was so tight the thing blew up and knocked like half the table off.
Oh damn.
And there was like audible swearing, and multiple judges had to come in to like replay stuff based on the last streams. But I saw a quick blurb of the video of the ship exploding, and it was crazy.
Jeez.
I've never seen that much damage done to an X-wing table. It was pretty extraordinary. And the guy that it happened to was a good sport about it. One of the guys in the Gold Squadron stream actually was the player he was playing against, as I recall.
Yeah.
It may have been Alex Davies, actually. He might have just scared the poor guy.
Yeah.
Okay. But let's see. Let's go ahead and jump through. We've got a couple more things to cover. I did want to make sure that we touch on XWA, which I have a little bit.
Yep.
But did you want a chance to talk about the games that you're playing right now? Because you've been playing league games with XWA points.
Yes. Yeah. So it's no secret I'm an avid Scum fan. I've been flying pretty much nothing but at least 1 to 2 of the new standard loadout from the Armed and Dangerous XWA. I think what XWA has done for the standard loadouts for the factions that haven't gotten standard loadouts has been phenomenal.
Yeah, you stopped flying Guri. I was a little bit shocked. I haven't seen you fly Guri in ages.
Yeah, I haven't flown Guri yet. I did fly Guri at a local with
Okay.
Zizor. So 10 points Guri Zizor on the table.
And that was the new SL Zizor, or was this?
Yeah, new SL Zizor.
Ooh, nice. Haven't heard about that one yet.
Yeah, I haven't flown that one in a TTS game, so I don't have a recording of that one. But from what I've played of Zizor SL, he's phenomenal.
Let me pull something up real quick.
Yeah, I'll probably do the same actually. If you don't mind my silly Opera GX.
Please excuse me while I also messily chew up some contraband sour candy that was totally not belonging to a small child. Okay, so we're talking Zizor.
So right down the bottom, yeah.
And these don't have the artwork. That's a bummer. There we go. Okay, yeah. Yeah. Let me zoom in on this too, because it's pretty small. Oh yeah, okay. So you got when you perform an attack against a strained ship, you may remove 1 stress token. Very nice.
Which you can do with Crime Lord. It's just notorious on crack.
Right. After you defend, if the attacker's in your forward arc, you may spend 1. If you do, the attacker gains a strain token.
Yeah, it's just notorious. The change to adaptive microthrust to the microthrusters to adaptive microthrusters is awesome.
Yep, that's right. The May, and then also not having having 3 charges instead of 2, and then it is in turn at initiative 4 instead of during the end phase.
Yeah, and then Virago is systems phase, red boost or barrel roll.
Right. Yes, that one system instead of that's the one I was thinking. Sorry. Yeah.
So there's lots.
But that May do the wibbly is nice.
May do the
the maneuvers in this thing are crazy. I mean I4, but still.
Mm-hmm.
And then optics. So free locks on a ship with that dial and this kind of so like you can free lock, boost focus, potentially against the strained attacker. And at I4, this is actually an amazing upgrade for an I4. That's where it actually is an advantage, being that middling initiative.
Yep. So yeah, you can systems phase target lock, systems phase bendy barrel roll, 1 bank the direction that you just came from, still boost again and focus. If you're assuming something's just completely blowing past you. So instead of going really far out with the sloop, you can just do a really wicked, nasty, almost 180-degree turn on the spot.
Yeah. Is he fast enough that you would take him as a counter to the B-Wings? Just to go ahead and be obnoxiously on theme.
To the B-Wings?
Yeah, like can he get behind or beside them in a way where he isn't going to just get blown up?
You'd have to be careful. You'd keep him at range 2, just to be careful of the bombs. And he's got a lot of ways of getting out of the bombs as well, because you just systems phase Virago out.
Right.
As well, with the barrel roll.
And that one not being limited on charges is really nice.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would. I haven't flown against B-Wings with SL Zizor. But yeah, you could easily push him into B-Wings, just keep him... He likes being on the edge of the table and arc dodging to begin with.
Right.
But yeah, I've been flying a lot of SL Boba. He's great fun. Where is he? There he is.
What? There he is.
Yeah. SL Boba is great because Fennec is just diabolical.
While you defend or perform an attack, if you have a lock on an enemy ship, the enemy ship rolls 1 pure defense die. Yeah, so locking stuff to kind of shut it down is...
Yeah.
And then also his pilot ability. After another friendly ship defends, if you have a lock on the attacker, you may perform a bonus attack against the attacker. So you can... Your bonus and primary both could reduce the opponent's ship by 1.
Yep. Which I do have a video up on my channel which has Boba
Oh.
triggering that a couple times a game.
Yeah, that's really good, especially in a list with a coordinator where you can get those locks and do other stuff too. 'Cause
Yeah.
he does have the boost lock though, is a really nice action.
Boost lock is really nice, yeah. So he does want a coordinator. He can get away with not having a coordinator so long as you're fine with using homing beacon to set it up the turn before. So homing beacon when you can't take the shot at beyond range 3, then you come in with a focus and a target lock.
Oh yeah. And this Slave 1 title makes sense on him too. If you're able to have a target lock on an opposing ship and then get behind it, you will just utterly murder that ship. Especially if that ship is also shooting at another ship in your squad.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Ion control, letting you get behind stuff and control where it is, like that's nuts.
And then homing beacon's great as well because after you fully execute an advanced maneuver, if there's an enemy ship at range 1 to 2 in your front arc, you can get a free target lock after you perform a 4K or a 3 Talon.
Right. And the 3 Talon's perfect for that because it gives you enough room to get around behind them if they're still fairly close.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh man, that's nice.
Oh yeah. I would
have to be very careful to decide whether to use that for the long range locks or save it for my weird wibbly maneuver locks.
Yeah. I've used it for both. I think I haven't had a game where Boba ran out of homing beacon.
Okay.
But in the games I've been playing, he's very rarely had the chance to trigger Slave 1, or if it did, it would have gone onto shields anyway. And we weren't playing salvage.
Unless they're really trying to run away, that's a bit of a pipe dream. It's going to be hard to pull that off.
Yeah. But I understand why they didn't give the Boba Fett Slave 1. Because that would just be brutal.
Oh my god, yeah, the dial changing? No.
Yeah. This is already brutal enough.
Yeah, and it wouldn't have made sense to do the Marauder title. He's got to have Slave 1 in some form or another.
But yeah, no, XW...
Nice.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
XWA has been really friendly to Scum, has been really friendly to a lot of factions. It's been fixing a lot of things that a lot of people had problems with points-wise. They massacred our boy Hondo, both as crew and
well,
as
only in specific builds.
I had a Hondo fire spray build, which I absolutely positively enjoyed at one point. To the point that I have our token that has I calculated the risk, but boy am I bad at math. And that would be Hondo's calculate token for using his action, or using his pilot ability in the fire spray.
Yeah, because that's at the initiative 1. He can do the coordinate a friendly and an enemy.
Yeah. Using his action bar.
3.
Yeah, using his action bar, and then he gets a coordinate out of that. And it's
He
0
gets
to
calculate,
0 to 3, so he can hit himself with it.
Right. Yes, I love that. Yeah, I want to say I ran him with with Lando crew, so he could use that for a reroll if he needed to.
Yeah. That's what I was doing, and then I had Nomlum in the rogue that steals initiatives.
Oh, gross.
So I'd swarm tactics and keep those two together. So they're both moving at I1, doing what they want to do at I1, then steal the I5, I6 initiative, and then give it to Hondo.
Nice.
Yeah.
I know you've talked about that before. Before that, I would love Hondo to be our 6-point fire spray and just have him like junk loadout. Put it as low as you put it like 5 or something.
It's already pretty rotten with where he is at 7
low.
points.
He's an I1 fire spray. He's not worth 7 points. Even with that gimmicky cool ability. Being able to take proton cannons is nice, but I feel like that's the kind of thing that justifies him at the 7 point, where he really could reasonably be 6 with less loadout, or take away the cannon slots.
Because Hondo
have 2 anyway.
Yeah, Hondo is 7 with 10 loadout.
Yeah.
But then you got Boba Fett armed and dangerous at 7.
Isn't he 8?
No.
Is he 7? No.
Custom Boba is 8.
This is a 7-point boba.
This is a 7-point boba because you don't have the double. Because you don't have double tap with veteran tail gunner, and you don't have monumental amounts of reroll at range 0 to 1.
But this is one of the only builds that'll give you potential double taps against the same target.
True.
Most all the double taps force you to split your fire. This lets you focus fire and really murder that one thing, which is better.
I have flown Boba Dengar in one list, so SL
Yeah.
Boba and Dengar, and I have quad tap to ship, so both of them firing and both of them getting the revenge shot.
And that's just murder. Like,
Yeah,
that is so much damage.
Yeah, and because Boba, again, he's got the lock, so he's reducing your agility by 1.
On all 4, yeah.
Only on his attacks.
Assuming you don't spend it.
On his attack, sorry.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So it's while you...
Okay, that's...
Yeah.
Yeah.
But still,
yeah. So Dengar's same ability, that's the one.
Yeah. Dengar SL's great fun.
Yep.
My locals have been really enjoying the Resistance SLs.
Mm-hmm.
As well as...
the Vinny.
Yeah.
I want to see the Vinny. So I forget. I think it was. Oh shoot! I want to say it was Ryan on GSP was talking about how he didn't believe. No, it was one of the guys in Sith Takers was saying he didn't believe in Vinny, and then he saw it launched once, and rolled the 9 orc dice.
Yep, I had.
Was like, all right,
I had Vinny set up across from the table from me, and he does damage.
Yep.
He does damage.
He's gonna blank out sometimes, but not enough to really reduce the amount of damage you can put out. Like, he can really do some murder.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a frightening ship.
Because it was run with Ronith and with our with Merle.
Oh, there you go. Oh, and you didn't remember what Merle did? For shame.
Because I've only flown against Merle once. And it was that Venny
trigger,
list.
I guess. Yeah.
But Venny getting...
My God. Wait a minute. So
Venny
Merle reducing the defense.
By 1.
He reduces the defense of... Oh, plus
and then
Venny.
Venny rolling 5 dice range 1 front arc, 4 dice range 1 turret arc. So 9 dice against a reduced 1 agility ship. It's spooky.
And the turret arc could again be the same arc, so he could throw them both in the same direction.
Yep, which is what he did.
God, alright.
It hurt.
Okay.
It hurt.
Oh, yeah. I did... Okay. Interlude. Before we get too much on this, and then I think this is actually the last piece of my agenda, I did want to make sure to this. I reached out to the X-Wing Alliance folks and asked, I was curious, like, what went into the design of these? Like, what did they do? What process did they go through? Because in the design stream, they went through a really cool breakdown of, I think exactly what was said was we went through a lot of iterations with some of these ships, especially Boba Fett, who was at times overpowered and at times underpowered, and we had to figure out how exactly to get to this. So we were just talking about Boba and how good he is right now.
Yeah.
And in some of the design notes, they talked a lot about wanting to pull from specific eras of Boba Fett. And I wanted to go ahead and read what they said. And this is direct from the X-Wing Alliance design team. I don't think I can do it in Paul's voice. From early on, we made the decision of portraying Mando, Bo-Katan, and Boba in the Armed and Dangerous pack, taking inspiration from the scenes of both Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett series. While for Mando and Bo-Katan, we had several scenes from those series where you could draw direct inspiration from on the way those characters could be portrayed, like in the Battle of Kalevala, yep, where Mando and Bo-Katan defend Bo's castle against Gideon's forces, or the battle against Gorian's pirates in Navarro. I don't know why I had such a hard time saying that. For Boba, we didn't have a lot of source material on how he would fight with his ship at that point in time. And when I read that part, all I remember is Boba being like Sarlacc tentacled, and I was like, that's not going to translate to X-Wing. So I believe that the first upgrade that was included for Boba was his iconic seismic charges, which we see him dropping in episode 15 of The Mandalorian, dealing with the 2 pursuing TIE fighters.
Yeah.
Pictures you can still hear to this day.
Yes.
For his title, Slave 1, we just added the most recently released version of the Slave 1 title. Totally makes sense. Doesn't mention why they didn't use the dial flipping one, but I think we can all guess why they didn't do that.
That's pretty.
When
It's
designing,
strong.
it's crazy. When designing Boba's new pilot ability, we took inspiration on how his character personality was portrayed in the series. In it, we see Boba forming a bond with the Tusken Raiders, Fennec Shand, and others. And we see him protect his new friends and allies, like when he retaliates upon the biker gangs after learning that it was them who were behind the attack on the Tuskens. Which, yeah, and I was thinking about that. I was like, yeah, that totally makes sense, because the book of Boba Fett we see is pretty reactionary, where he's trying to set this thing up, but he's not exactly on the back foot, but all of this stuff keeps happening and he has to react to it, often lashing out pretty aggressively to defend one of his allies. So that totally tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then with Fennec Shand, we knew she's a skilled marksman, capable of keeping in check others at a long range. Like in her first appearance in The Mandalorian, in Episode 5, we knew that we wanted Fennec to have an ability related to either Locke or the Bullseye, and ended up going for the first one, which I'm really grateful for, because if that was a Bullseye limited ability, that would have been
that would have been so strong. Yeah, that would have been so difficult.
Yeah, and it synergizes with all the other stuff. The lock thing being an action, there are limitations you can build into that. It can be jammed off. Something cannot be locked for some reason. Like, I like that there's counterplay. Whereas with a Bullseye, you would have swung between never being able to use it, which would be a bummer, or never being able to counter it, which would also be a bummer.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you use that on a VCX or something, it's like, well, sucks for you. Yeah. Well, originally, Fennec Shand had a similar ability as now. She also had a second ability, giving the option to take locks at any range. Later on, we decided to split those abilities, creating the final upgrade, Homing Beacon, which serves the purpose we needed, but that isn't really inspired by the show directly. But no, it ties it in nicely to the other bounty hunter stuff, because that sort of ties in with the tracking fob, which has a similar ability already. So it's like,
it's a bounty park, yeah.
And so that's it. That was the whole design thing. I was kind of hoping for a blow-by-blow of, like, this is the moment of the playtesters were like, too much, or this is the moment where the playtesters thought it wasn't enough.
I would have loved to have heard what was too much.
Which maybe I still get, but I really enjoyed that bit of insight into what. I love that kind of extra thinking. And it's enough that you can... What?
I could find out, because my team leader in the Nickel City X-Wing, he is a playtester.
You might know. He may not be the playtester that was responsible for that part, but yeah, it'd be fun to ask.
I'll chuck him a message. I'll find out. I'll try and find out at least.
Sure. Yeah, but I really appreciated the team being send me that note and giving me the license to share it. And that is also another peek at the sort of design philosophy they put into all of these cards. So Boba specifically, I was like, okay. The next one I'm curious about, of course, is Dengar, being one of my favorite pilots ever. Yeah, this one is interesting to me because it feels like it's a very complicated build. Mostly it's very basic. It's Dengar. He's a jump master. He does jump master things. He does his counterattack. He has this ability to strain something to make it not want to shoot him, which is fun. And just hand out free strain tokens, which is a great combo with other stuff. Like, you combine a strained ship with Boba's ability and suddenly rolling 2 fewer attack dice.
Yeah.
But then it does have the starboard thrusters and the synced handling combo is something I need to put on the table to see how that works.
It's so fun.
Okay, but it's what the ship was originally designed to do, and the 1.0 design of it was very simple and busted to hell.
Yeah.
So this is a perfect example of using the standard loadout to give Dengar, the pilot, not a generic, something like the movement stuff you had before in a more limited fashion.
Yeah.
A lot of charges to keep track of on this one.
Yeah, so the video is not up on my page yet, on my channel yet, because I have to do some editing. Because I paused the recording because we were at an ambiguous ending because we weren't sure on the ruling. So we went through the league rules to find that out. And then had to restart recording after that. But use Dengar that game, and his left turns into free calculates is great, because if you give him a coordinator, he can be target locked, focus calculated into an engagement.
Oh, nasty.
Yep. Okay. Again, people don't want to shoot at him because Dengar being Dengar. I keep forgetting R2G8 is 0 to 1, not 1, not range 1 to 2.
So you can give the strain to the defender.
To the ship that you just shot at, yeah, to really discourage them shooting Dengar back.
Right. And I wondered about that because that's something that I talked about a little bit before. I think I misspoke when we looked at these before, talking about how this does somehow add extra offense at Initiative 6, which it doesn't. But this gives you a lot more utility from it and psychological control of like what happens next. And I really love having the options there. That's very cool.
And it can tag a target that that's not even looking at Dengar, that the rest of your list is about to fire into as well.
Yeah, so you can have that, like, I want to kill that, and hopefully we'll kill it, but also I want that thing to die too, so let's split the difference and do both. That's some extra utility to him tonight. Yeah, that's nice.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and this, like, it's very thematic. Having that maneuvers are easier going to the left is something that was completely removed from the ship, from the switch from first edition to second edition.
Yeah,
and it's cool to see that come back.
It's twice a game. Have your old dial back. Have fun. And
this one, holy crap!
I have K turned or slooped into a blue hard, into a blue hard left straight away.
Yeah,
it's great. It's so great. I love this change to Dengar. I think I will probably only ever fly this Dengar, to be honest.
I still like Ketsu's my favorite pilot, but I gotta fly Boba Dengar, so I may do Boba Dengar Ketsu and probably not have the points to run it. Or I think that's 19.
That's 19, so you're giving up a point.
776. No, is Ketsu 6? Surely not.
She is. So yeah, that's 766. Dengar is 6 points.
So it is 19. Oh yeah, Dengar 6. Wow. Okay.
I contemplated it. That's how I know what the point value is.
I'm gonna run it. I want to run that because you get bonus attacks with Dengar and Boba, and
just give up the point.
Like, if you maybe because you've got Fennec, R2G8, and tractor tokens from Ketsu, so you've got it can shoot like a 5-ship list, hit stupidly hard, yeah, and it's all 5 or 6, or all initiative 5 or 6. So I really like that too.
Yeah, I might give that a go at my local. Just give up a point.
Gonna royally suck on objective, so you really gotta do some murder, but it should do the murder. So that's,
pray
and take a
get,
punch too.
Yeah, pray that you get assault at the satellite array.
Yeah, no, I mean you just have to go all in on kill points. Just be like, I'm gonna kill all that stuff. Come get the objectives. Come do it. Yeah. Because I mean, with this though, you can do the soft lock with just the calculate token.
Yeah.
And just do your objective action and then be Dengar. Yeah.
And yeah, synchronized handling, it doesn't care about the difficulty to regain that energy either.
Right. Oh, that's true. That's a good point. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So you can still use your starboard thrusters to regain that charge. Yeah, that's nice.
Yep.
And I love that one of those can be regained. Like, it's complicated charges to keep track of, but once you get a handle on it, this is a very fun jump master to fly again. Yeah.
It's very intuitive. It really
like this recharges this.
Yep.
This recharges. Yeah. Okay.
It's very intuitive because you're usually going straight or left. Sometimes you go right, but that's if you need to dodge things. But because you're usually going straight or left, it's very easy to go, yep, I'm getting my calculate back, and then starboard thrusters help you get that back on a white sloop, which is nuts. You can get a target lock calculate after performing a sloop, and usually you're not being looked at, so it gets rid of it, so you're not worried about the strain.
And we've talked about it before. If I did that, my Dengar Ketsu Boba, on Ketsu I would have Grief Karga crew and Mandalorian optics.
Yeah.
So that you can get the free target locks and then share them with other ships. So I could focus lock Boba with Ketsu.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'd be nice. And then I'd still have some objective play, but also just make him really, really dangerous.
Yeah.
Or focus lock Dengar and have him actually have mods. That never happens.
It's very easy for Dengar to have mods with this. Because again, you take a lock, and synchronized handling is before you engage, you gain a calculate. So you get soft double mod.
So you get lock calculate. Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then you just turn left and get it back.
Right.
And you get your calculate back. So if you're just spiraling around the table, you pretty much have a calculate every turn on top of whatever other action you want.
You know you're going to be barrel rolling every turn. That's what Dengar does. Yeah, just barrel rolls. It's fine. Fine. Okay. Yeah, we've gone on pretty long. Let's check the agenda and see how we're doing. We said. All right. Let's see. You talked about. Yes. Nice. Yeah, I think we actually covered the whole list and followed notes for possibly the first time of any video I've ever recorded. So I appreciate the inspiration on that one. But yeah, I am super pumped for the X-Wing Alliance. Just to kind of talk briefly about some of the other stuff I'm doing here. I would really like to get a consolidated list of the organized play events coming up. I know there are going to be a lot just using X-Wing Alliance points that aren't necessarily like formal XWA events.
Yeah.
I put up a Reddit post asking what people were doing, like what events were out there, and I'm getting like a piecemeal response. People are saying like, I'm going to this, I announced this, and that's cool, but I want to do something a little bit more complete, and I'd love to get all the regions in on that as best as possible.
Mm-hmm.
It would be fun to make a running map. We'll see if I get around to that, but
yeah, because I think I can give you what a event was like a couple hours down the road that Lucky Duck attended.
And I will say there is. Let me actually jump to this and see what this is, because these guys may already have beat me to it. Whoa. What's this? What is it? I love it. I already like it. It's obviously a very different style from the rest of the website, but there's some fancy stuff going on in here.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
Did say to refresh it. I'm going to go ahead and refresh it. Yeah, much better. All right, cool.
Cool.
Tinker with some iframes. Nice. Okay, so this does have some maps up here as well.
Yeah.
And automatically hides past events. So these are all coming up. We've got time zone. So we got Cardiff in the UK, Sheffield in the UK, Birmingham in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
UK Games Expo, yes. So we're getting some of these in here. It'd be really cool to fill more stuff on this. But yeah, it's a spot where this is being tracked. So if people are aware of this, I would love to see this become an actual guide where we can see what's coming up. Make the X-Wing Alliance website as much of a hub as possible moving forward. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. That's all I got. I should go to bed. But yeah, as always, I appreciate the backup.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Love to hear what you're doing. And one of these days, we got to get a game in where we just heckle each other.
We really
do. Play a game.
We really do. It's going to be Scum v Scum. It's my weak. That's not my weakest matchup. My weakest matchup is against Republic.
Oh, how? Republic Arcs or just Republic in general?
Republic in general, because I don't have anyone locally that flies it.
Okay. I have no idea how to fly Republic.
Yeah, I'm not going to ask you to fly Republic.
I might just for fun, but yeah, it's probably going to be Scum v Scum, and we'll see who can out-murder the other.
Yeah.
Really be a war of the bounty hunters. Although it would be a fun opportunity to try as many of the Scum standard loadout cards on the table at once as possible.
Yep. Convince you that standard loadout Fenrir is worth it.
It's funny, the list that I put together earlier is tailor-made to murder Fangs, because I really have struggled with aces in my previous lives and X-Wing, and so I take stuff that just murders them. So Ketsu.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, no, Ketsu is really popular. Ketsu and Boba is really popular from what I'm reading from other people participating in Nickel City.
A 7-point Boba, and the combination there of like Boba's tractor ability against a tractored ship, like that thing is dead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it seems good.
It's what I've been doing.
Yeah. So I really like that. Plus, I really would love to do that one. Plus, Dengar. The one downside of that is that would be 2 SLs instead of the potential 3. So. Yeah. To hold myself back a little bit, I may do Han instead of Ketsu, just to try that one, because I want to try that one a lot. And he combos really well with Dengar, because Dengar can throw out the strains.
Yeah.
Seems good.
Yeah,
Seems
no,
good.
it really does. Everyone is happy at the moment in XWA. There's a lot of expression. I don't think I've ever seen the same list twice. Or same archetype twice, I should say.
Yeah.
It's been great.
We did miss something.
Oh, yes.
We've touched on this. I did just want to go ahead and highlight what the X-Wing Alliance has done to kind of tweak the meta that we saw in AMG.
Mm-hmm.
So we saw a couple problem pieces come up, and problem is a bit of a strong word, but things like Kyo comes up all the time because she's crazy, crazy cheap. Kyo never should have been a 3-point ship. And
No.
in X-Wing Alliance, she's 4, which basically means that Kyo's never going to see play again, which is a shame. But it is the design team, the rules team have said they're spending a lot of time adjusting different things, and we may see them adjust the overall points of the game.
Yeah.
I personally would kind of hesitate to touch that because that's a pretty cataclysmic change to the game as it is now and has been for a while.
Mm.
From a design perspective, I understand why you would do that. But as like a community run game, the further the fundamental thing steps away from the kind of last officially supported game, the more difficult it is to it's going to be to bring in players to the same place. There are going to be that many more branching paths to have to follow to go to different places, and I'm concerned about that. But
mm-hmm.
yeah, so Q at 4 with a bunch of loadout is pretty great. And we still see Ahsoka somewhere. Yeah, there she is at 5.
5 points,
okay,
yeah.
so she's 5.
She went back up to 5.
Which makes sense because she's insanely powerful.
Yeah. So a recent change that they did for XWA is if a pilot has force, they cannot have a talent.
That's right. Yep.
So
and that's something. Yeah, I want to say we talked about that when they came out with that, but they've opened the door to dialing that back for some pilots, like Anakin, I think is one they specifically named. But
Anakin shattering shot. Yeah.
Yeah, I do. But I mean, giving him a talent. I mean, so that is something that it's such an iconic piece of the pilot for specific, especially the limited named pilots. I'd like to see them kind of tinkered with a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I don't see Aether Sprite Anakin like dominating tables right now.
No.
I'm not really paying as much attention to XWA, but he doesn't seem that great. So I think there's room to kind of give him some extra advantages. Battle over Endor, Gina at 6. Battle over Endor, Braylon at 5.
Yep, so they stopped that 10-point insta-take.
There he is. So it's 11 for the two of them, because Gina's 6, Braylon's 5, because it was 6-4 before, right?
Yeah. It was 5-5 before.
Maybe. It was 5-5, yeah, because so Gina went up. And I think that is actually true of, that's what AMG did too.
Yeah, that's what AMG ended up doing.
I want to say they also brought back full-on double-tapping Han. They gave the Falcon enough loadout to, So Han, Scoundrel for Hire, has enough loadout to actually do the full-on Bistan Perceptive Copilot again.
But I think Bistan went up in points.
Yeah, so it's really expensive to do it.
Yeah.
You can do that base combo, and he's 9 points. So he's like an extremely expensive Falcon.
Yeah.
So he could do it, but you better mean it, which I appreciate. So there's a lot of thought going into what points are balanced for what and why, and what specific builds it impacts.
And there's 9 points.
Yeah, there's so much direct communication between players and the X-Wing Alliance, and they're not afraid to make kind of quick changes that I think we're in a much healthier spot, and I'm really excited to move forward with this.
We haven't seen any changes since Armed and Dangerous, and since April. But I'm not surprised they're letting everyone get their hands on the new Armed and Dangerous and Battle over whatever it is.
Battle of Dakar.
Evacuation of Dakar.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised they're letting people settle in, see how those go. But Resistance very much has a solid front line at the moment. I've been noticing, at least with Resistance, they're not almost always, but you can kind of bet on double Y-Wing coming at you.
Oh, interesting. Okay, that's not at all where I thought you were going with that.
Yeah. So so Tezza and Zori, because they can both take wartime loadout. Yeah. So that's just 8 points of a lot of shield and hull to chew through. and their abilities
Yeah.
are great as well.
Oh my god, what? Yeah, I keep getting shocked every time I see that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
resistance and
yeah.
yeah, resistance and first order really have always had very strong fundamentals. They have very strong. Wait a second, we do have a 6 point. That's right. Um, they've got a really strong combination of stats, initiative, and kind of chassis abilities, and some really good unique upgrades. Like resistance and FO are just good.
Yeah.
So they're really tricky to balance because they can quickly get completely overboard.
Yeah.
But they also don't have that high of a player rate, so it's also a little bit hard to see what impact they're going to have on the meta before it happens. Because I don't see that many players playing either of them. I guess we do. We just saw Worlds where a lot of Resistance players came out, but yeah, I wonder what's going to go on. And I'm going to try very hard not to put any spoilers here, but I could see a very there's a ship that very recently was a fan favorite and has recently gotten a whole lot of screen time in the past week. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. That I could see probably coming back to Empire sooner than later.
Oh, with what's... I haven't watched Andor yet.
You
So
will
yeah, it does say
probably
anything.
know immediately what ship I'm talking about. Yeah, it's yes.
If it was the one in the if it was the one in the trailer, we've never seen it before, and I remember seeing that trailer. I messaged Duck, and I said, "This is the last thing Empire needs." Seeing that
It's
TIE,
it's fine. It's fine.
yeah, seeing that TIE fighter, I'm like, "This is the last thing Empire needs. They don't need this right now." But no, I
And
have
it
not
is-
watched Andor, so I don't know what else is in
Yes.
Andor.
It's actually a classic ship. It's one that was introduced. It's funny, the Wikipedia article has actually already been updated for the Andor images. It's one that we
Jeez.
have seen before. It was one of those dumb Legends ones where it's like it has everything. But yeah, so
Do I know it from that description alone? No, I don't.
I want to see where it actually came into Canada, because if it's interested in his story, nobody really cares. But I believe it was in one of the games.
One of the games. Oh God.
One of the...
We might have to
actually this.
we might have to discuss this outside of a video. You might have to
Yeah,
just
I'm
send
sorry,
me the
so-
link because that's
I'm not
fine.
spoiling Andor. It's very good. It's only 3 episodes in, and it's still just doing the building stuff. So you really don't know how everything's going to shake out.
Yeah,
but it
that's
very
why
much
I'm
feels
fine.
like it's going to be.
Yeah, that's why I'm fine just knowing the ship.
Yeah. So and what the ship is actually doesn't factor in at all. It's just I don't want to do any spoilers in the least here at this point. So
Yeah, at least not publicly on video.
right. Yes. Okay. And on that note, we'll hop off. Really excited for the future of the game. Really enjoyed getting a chance to go ahead and talk through world stuff. And I'm going to bed.
All right. Have fun with that.
Will do. Good night.
Good night, sir.
And that